I can hear y'all now, and I couldn't hear you at first.
Thank you so much.
Is there any conversation? Because it's just silence.
Santi cut down. video isn't working. You couldn't use your voice.
Mr. Richardson, you are muted if you want there.
No food. Christian, are you on and can you hear me?
Yes and yes. I actually called you earlier, but you didn't hear me.
I couldn't, something was going on with my computer, but thank you. I just wanted to make sure I wouldn't have an echo. So thank you. I'm on using, for volume, I'm using my phone, just so you guys know I'm on here twice, okay?
Got it. Okay.
All right, thank you.
I think I don't know if you're aware, but the CEO had a conflict, so she couldn't make it. So I think it's 7:30. We can just go ahead and get started. I don't think we're waiting for anyone.
Okay, she was gonna try to call in
Okay.
when I spoke to her earlier, just to give greetings. So if not, I agree with you. We can get started. So.
So she's gonna call in at the beginning.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we can wait. We are at the beginning. So.
We're
Well.
at the beginning.
Yeah.
And our board's on here?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. I know tonight is a full night and I want to respect everyone's time. So why don't we go ahead and get started? And if Dr. Santelises joins us, she's Mervo's football team is in the finals and she's supporting our Mervo football team. So I'm excited for them. They've had a pretty tough year. And so I'm excited for that team. Let's go ahead and get started. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's COMAR hearing. I do want to first thank the community for coming out and testifying on this school year's portfolio recommendations. We will start tonight's hearing with a recap presentation from Ms. Angela Alvarez, followed by public testimony. Please keep your phones muted and videos off until it's your time to testify. I will now turn it over to Ms. Alvarez for the presentation.
Good evening, Board of School Commissioners and members of the public. I'm going to be brief so that the most time is used for public testimony. This is a very brief recap presentation. So, we're in the annual review, which is aligned to board priority 6. Our goal of increasing the number of educational programs of all types that can guarantee a high quality educational experience, ensuring our students receive a high quality education on all experiences. That's the goal, it's part of the work, even in these most challenging kinds of recommendations. That review process looks at a lot of different indicators, including academic performance, climate, access, quality, and distribution of programming, school enrollment and school size, building utilization and condition, 21st Century Buildings Plan, and for operator-run schools, the renewal framework. We are here on December 2nd in the COMAR hearing. This is a summary of our schools that have recommendations before them. And so with that, I don't want to talk too much because I really feel like tonight needs to be really focused on hearing from everybody in the community. I want to thank everybody who signed up and who are participating. I'll come back at the end, Commissioner Richardson, it's okay, just to remind people of the next opportunity for testimony.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mrs. Alvarez. Now let's turn it over to our board executive for public comment portion of our meeting. Christian.
Thank you, Chair Richardson. I just want to first just kind of give a preference that we have a lot of engagement tonight, so please bear with me as I switch between emails, phones, etc. First up, we have Councilman Eric Costello testifying. I see you there, so you have 5. Well, you're ready to go.
Thank you very much. Eric Costello, Baltimore City Council, 11th District. Madam Chair and Commissioners, thank you so much for putting this forum on. I want to talk about a couple reasons why I'm extremely concerned about the proposed closing of Utah Marshburn Elementary School. First, I want to focus on student impact. The mere suggestion that we would have students at that current site and then put them at other schools, specifically Furman L. Templeton Preparatory Academy and Dorothy I. Height Elementary School on Reservoir Hill, and force them to cross North Avenue or Pennsylvania Avenue is really scary. I'm a 41-year-old grown man, and I'm scared to cross those streets because they're raceways. In addition to that, it would have our children walking through known open-air drug markets that have gone unaddressed for a significant period of time. City schools system has no public safe passage program, similar to what other cities such as Newark, New Jersey have. And BPS's response during the second public meeting was, well, this is a great opportunity for the city of Baltimore to handle these concerns that you've raised around, crossing guards and restriping of sidewalks, as if that's going to do anything to address those significant impacts that I just mentioned. The second concern is around the facility itself. We've been told that the entire skin of the building needs to be replaced at anywhere from a cost of somewhere between $11 and $14 million. We have asked to have access to the site to inspect it ourselves, and by we, I mean myself and community leaders, including parents. We have been denied that request on 2 occasions. We have not been provided an engineer's report, but we are consulting with a professional engineer, a licensed PE. He will be making a formal request, and I respectfully request the board direct the administration at Baltimore City Public Schools to comply with that request in a timely manner. In addition, we were told that 56 of 75 HVAC repairs required in the school system have already been completed, yet Utah Marshburn has not. What's really frustrating about that, I think, to the community is that Utah Marshburn was ranked, if I'm not mistaken, #1 in 2012, beyond what was projected to be for the first two phases of 21st century schools. So we have known for some time that this school needed HVAC repairs, and this school and this community were denied those repairs in favor of other schools that had less serious repairs or lower utilizations or had a lower ranking in terms of the need for repair. In terms of number three, in terms of the disposition of this property, this is a 3-acre site in the middle of central West Baltimore. It is the city of Baltimore that would be responsible for the disposition of this property, not Baltimore City Public School System. In light of the history of central West Baltimore, whether it be the highway to nowhere or state center, things that have been put in the middle of our communities to separate them, it is simply not fair to put an additional burden on central West Baltimore. In terms of the student population enrollment, number 4, this area is actually growing. While it's seen a reduction in student enrollment, that's nothing that's any different from any of the other schools that are in the catchment area, the 3 schools that I mentioned, Fermanagh, Templeton, Coleridge Taylor, and Dorothy I. Height, which would be expected to take on this student population should this recommendation be approved. This recommendation clearly does not take into consideration the redevelopment of Pedestal Gardens, a very large scale, currently a 210 unit affordable housing site, which is going to increase to somewhere in the neighborhood of 418 units over the next 5 years with a nationally recognized nonprofit developer, the Community Builders. The Upton Gateway project, 4 blocks away, 38 new townhomes up and down the 14 and 1500 blocks of Druid Hill Avenue. And to suggest any suggestion that this neighborhood isn't capable of being incredible is really false, considering we just sold one of those houses in the Upton Gateway project for $310,000. If you would have told me 7 years ago we were going to sell a house for $310,000 in the middle of Upton, I would have said that's crazy. So it's very clear to me that the study didn't take into account this recent growth or projected additional growth. Number 5, the timing. I want to point out that there was an announcement made. We had the first meeting at the school. Chief of Staff Perkins Cohen, Ms. Alvarez, a number of other senior staff from city schools were there. We had what I thought was a productive conversation. We raised a number of questions related to facilities, impact on our students, disposition of the property, student population, many of the things that I just discussed, as well as several others. And we had a second meeting set up, which was held 2 days ago. And I would say 90% of those questions could not be answered by the ILED. It is simply unacceptable to have us come to a second meeting, set up expectations for our community members, our teachers, our faculty, our staff, our parents, former students, alumni, to come to that second meeting and not have those questions answered, and then say, well, we're going to have a public board meeting, which I know you're required to have by state law and COMAR. And many of those questions are still unanswered. So I'm sure you can appreciate the frustration on my behalf. I see my colleague in government, Senator Sidner, has met many community leaders who are really frustrated about this. And there's a lot of outstanding questions. I respectfully ask you to deny this recommendation. Let's go back to the administration of BCPSS and figure out a way to make this school program work for our community. Again, Madam Commissioner, Madam Chair, and all of the commissioners, I want to thank you for your time and consideration this evening. I do want to point out, despite my vehement disagreement with Dr. Santelisa's recommendation, I have the utmost respect for her, Chief of Staff Perkins Cohen, their entire senior staff. I know that they are trying hard every single day to provide a wonderful education for our young people, so I applaud them for that. And finally, and most importantly, I want to thank all the residents, parents, students, faculty, staff, neighbors, our state senator, and so many others who are here tonight to stand up for our school. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Councilman Costello. I just also want to acknowledge Senator Charles Sidner. He's going to be observing, but we do see you. Next up, we have a statement to be read from Ms. Marjorie Forrester, which I'm going to read shortly. Okay. Dear Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners, My name is Marjorie Forster, a resident in District 44, and over the years have volunteered at Utah Marshburn Elementary School. Donated books. Oh, sorry, somebody's not muted. Okay, thank you. Donated books. Sorry, give me 1 second to mute because that is distracting. Okay. Donated books to the EMES library, and I'm passionate about providing our children with the best education and services possible. I'm writing to request that the recommendation made by the school commissioners be withdrawn for the following reasons. Due process was not provided to the parents, staff, students, and residents of District 44. Announcing the closure 7 months before the specified date does not allow the constituents most impacted and affected by this decision to work on plans to overturn it. At a minimum, the announcement should have been made 12 months before the closure announcement. Low enrollment. One reason given was low enrollment. And the table provided, it documents that until the pandemic hit, EMES's enrollment for many years was well above 200. And so the question is raised as to whether this is an accurate or fair data point on which to base the closure of EMES. Community support. There's strong community support for parents, students, and staff of EMES. For many of the families most severely impacted and affected, they are already struggling and do not deserve the inconvenience, upheaval, and added stress. Impact. We believe that the impact on EMES students will be immense during a time that is already stressful. We believe that closing the school will tear apart an already struggling community, and it is the children who will be forced to bear the brunt of the closure that is not fair and is not right. Travel distance. Closing EMES will force our children to attend schools that require them to cross 2 busy streets, North Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue, something that they are not required to do today. Building issues. One of the reasons given for closing EMES is because supposedly the skin of the building has problems that were only discovered by facilities managed 18 months ago. My question is, why wasn't FM inspecting the building on an annual basis to prevent such problems arising in the first place? This seems to be a failure on the part of FM, who neglected to maintain the building in working order. The students should not pay the price for the negligence of others and for a situation over which they had no control. New homes. The commissioner's recommendation fails to recognize the addition of 205 new units slated to be built by 2025 on the site of Pedestal Gardens, immediately adjacent to EMES. Judy Center and Promise Heights. The recommendation fails to recognize the 2 strong programs and provided and supported by the University of Maryland School of Social Work that supply excellent services to EMES students. New leadership. The recommendation fails to recognize a significant turnaround potentially associated with recent EMES leadership changes. Recreation center that provides social and recreational support to the community will be lost should EMES be forced to close. I'm totally opposed to the recommendation to close EMES. The reasons are many, but most importantly to me is that our children should not be made to suffer for situations that have arisen beyond their control. The pandemic resulted in many changes with enrollment, not unique to EMES, but applicable to schools throughout Baltimore, Maryland, and the entire USA. Children should not be made to suffer for the negligence on the part of FM for not keeping EMES in working order. It is not right and it is not fair that our children should be made to pay the price and suffer in this way. Respectively submitted by Marjorie Forster. Okay, next we have a statement from Ms. Evangeline Lozada, and please give me a second to pull it up. Okay. Good evening. My name is Evangeline Bernadez Lozada. I'm the IEP chair at Utah Marshburn Elementary School. I appreciate having this opportunity to submit my written testimony. I'm writing to voice my concerns against the proposed recommendation to close EMES. Closing our schools is not the answer. Despite this challenging time in the pandemic and adjusting from virtual learning to in-person learning, my EMES Eagle family is always happy and excited to come to school each day. The staff is very passionate, loving, and caring when working with the complex needs of our Eagle scholars, parents, community, and visitors in the building. We continue to have a strong bond, even in struggles and tribulations. Therefore, despite this closure recommendation, I remain hopeful. I'm knocking at the benevolent heart of the higher-ups not to close our school building. I'm optimistic that the board or the higher-ups will reverse their decision to let this educational institution continue to provide services at the doorsteps of our students. One of our educational goals is to build future leaders. Building future leaders starts at a young age because we must instill commitment and confidence. As educators, we are doing our best for the holistic development of our scholars. One day, these young generations will be the ones to make sound and fair decisions. One day, scholars who are currently enrolled at EMES may even become one of our school board members and make decisions that could affect our city and state if we are allowed to remain open. I worry about the impact of the closure on how students view themselves and their future possibilities. I worry students will walk past a vacant building that was once a place that taught them how to be future leaders. Furthermore, I feel sad about what a closure would do to our students' established relationships and routines. School closures are especially difficult for students with disabilities. Our scholars will struggle to keep their education on track as they adjust to a new foreign building with strangers. Students with disabilities may face obstacles not being in a regular routine, which will affect their emotional, social, mental, and ultimately financial well-being. Our EMES students are used to seeing this EMES building, which is very close to their homes. They are used to being around loving teachers and staff that they love, trust, and feel safe and very comfortable around. It is not easy to adjust to a new environment, feeling like a stranger in a new institution. If EMS will be closed, what will happen next? Our Eagle scholars will be sent out into various schools. What will happen? Our community will be broken apart and won't have access to the quality of education that our passionate EMES staff, administrators, and other adults are trying to provide them. They will need to adapt to new teachers, new administrators, new buildings, and social groups. Transitions between schools, especially during the pandemic, can interfere with students' learning. Moreover, the burden of school closures falls disproportionately on students and families, which is not fair or right. Thank you for letting me express my concern against the recommendation to close the EMES building. Instead of closing our school, please extend or set up a support system to help us. Do not knock us down. Help us to get back up. You see our determination doing everything that we can for the welfare of our school, for the welfare of our scholars, for the welfare of our parents, and for the welfare of the community. To the school board, I say step in and do what you need to do so we can continue shaping our future leaders here at EMES. School closing is not the answer. Thank you very much. And that was Evangeline Lozada. Okay, next we have a video from Ms. Mia Rickenbach. So give me one moment to pull it up.
Hi, my name is Mia Rickenbach. I'm submitting testimony as a concerned community member who lives about 3 blocks away from Stewart Hill Academic Academy. First of all, this is a school that our church, Salibo Community Church, has had a partnership with for many years. We met in that building and poured significant financial investment into seeing the school thrive. And we don't see that same investment coming from the city that's now recommending to close it. Second, there's a big ESOL need in the area, and it's only growing. And even though Charles Carroll Barrister has a good ESOL program, it's over-enrolled already. And Stewart Hill can provide for that need if it gets the investment that it needs. And thirdly, I just wanted to comment on the inequity of how these testimonies are even being received. The fact that live testimony can only be heard if it's submitted within a 2-hour window, it just illuminates the digital divide and the difference between families and community members who have access to the internet to be able to have their voice heard for these hearings and those who don't. So I imagine that we're missing out on some important voices just by the nature of how these things need to be submitted. So I urge the school board to reconsider this recommendation and to make the better choice of keeping Stuart Hill open, investing in it, finally the investment that it needs to thrive, and partnering with the community that has already been partnering with the school. We are committed to seeing this school at its best, and it's unacceptable that the city is choosing to ignore the needs and just put a permanent reaction to low enrollment and poor building quality that the city has caused, the poor building quality, to react in this way by closing the school. So I urge you to reconsider. I urge you to make a new decision that is in partnership with the community members, the parents, the students, the teachers, the many people who care about the school, have invested in this school, and want to see it thrive. Thank you.
Okay, next I have a statement from Patty Hogan. Okay. Good evening. The Union Square Association is here to ask that you keep Stuart Hill open. The recommendation to close Stuart Hill is based on the small school size, declining enrollment, and the condition of the school building. However, none of these are reasons why Stuart Hill needs to close, and there is no evidence that any of the supposed benefits of closing the school will outweigh the harm done to students, families, and the community. Stuart Hill is an essential part of our community. It is a true community school. Families and students are supported by many services that are based not only at the school, but also in the surrounding community. If Stuart Hill is closed, students will no longer be able to attending schools within blocks of Clay Potts, a grassroots community center, the Viva House, which has provided food and other support to the community for over 50 years, and the Christian Community Center, which is free after-school care and programming for students. Closing Stuart Hill will also mean that the community will lose access to GED and ESL classes that were scheduled to start at the school from Baltimore City Community College, Head Start classes that were scheduled to move into Stuart Hill. Students in the Stuart Hill zone can easily walk to Stuart Hill. It is at most less than a half a mile away from students, and most students are a quarter mile away. Franklin Square is a half mile away, and Frederick is almost a mile away for all Stuart Hill students. Sending students to Frederick especially means that they will have to cross many busy streets and dangerous intersections through an area that many families are uncomfortable with their elementary school age children walking through. Stuart Hill has just this year gotten a full-time ESOL program to support the increased number of Spanish-speaking students and families in our community who are zoned from Stuart Hill. It will take time for families to come back to Stuart Hill after they had to find other schools because of the lack of ESOL programming over the years. Closing Stuart Hill will mean that our neighborhoods will lose a much-needed resource. Over the course of the pandemic, students have experienced trauma. Many have lost family members, families have been stressed and burdened, and they have had to deal with virtual learning. Bringing them back to school in person, only to close their school at the end of the year and send them to a new school, will cause them even more trauma. The community and partners have come together to invest tens of thousands in the school. Almost $60,000 from Sewebo Community Church for physical improvements, including the auditorium and the teachers lounge, $20,000 from the Baltimore Community Foundation through the Southwest Partnership for Community Space, thousands of dollars in money, time, and supplies from local businesses to improve the library and repaint the school building, volunteer time and donations to spruce up the front of the school this school year to welcome families back. Closing Stuart Hill will result in more disinvestment in our community. A vacant building on Union Square Park will greatly hurt ongoing community-led development initiatives, including the redevelopment of Baltimore Street, the growth of the Mount Clair community, and planned affordable housing development on Fulton Avenue. The decision to close Stuart Hill seems to be purely reactionary, with no consideration for the work that neighbors are doing to improve the community. Splitting the school zone at Gilmore makes no sense in terms of the community that is actually here. It cuts the neighborhoods of Mount Clair and Union Square in two and creates an artificial divide between the east and west halves of each neighborhood. In conclusion, we ask that you reject the recommendation that the school close at the end of the school year. I do see a hand. I don't know if there's a question about process or anything, but I do see a hand raised.
That's me. Hello, my name is Derek Gonzalo. I'm just a concerned parent of
Oh,
this community.
sorry, Mr. Marzan, did you sign up?
No, I was supposed to, what do you call it? I was supposed to attend a meeting earlier today through the school, but I wasn't unable to make the meeting. So I remember my wife told me that there was a meeting this evening, and I wanted to make sure I make this meeting and actually voice an opinion about what's going on in the community with the school closing, especially because I'm a parent that actually is really hands-on with this school.
Oh, okay, absolutely. We do have, like I said, we have a sign up procedure, so we can add to the end because we do have some folks who signed up first, and there also be opportunities to submit written comment or if you come to the meeting on the 15th, and if you have the Teams app in the chat, I think Ms. Alvarez gave some information on future opportunities to testify.
Sure, I will send my contact information in the chat, and someone can actually send me something.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Next, we have Mr. Paris Holmes speaking live. Are you available? Paris Holmes? Yeah. Okay. All right. You have 5 minutes.
Yes, I appreciate it. So good evening, everyone. My name is Paris Holmes. I am speaking against the proposed closure for Dr. Bernard Harris Elementary School in East Baltimore. So I'm just gonna jump right in really quickly. We, the students of Dr. Bernard Harris Senior Elementary School, pledge to respect ourselves and others. We'll be kind to one another. We will come to school on time, ready to learn, because we will do all these things because we know that good things will result. We, the students of Dr. Bernard Harris Senior Elementary School number 250, strive not to equal, but to excel. Now, I know you're wondering where that came from. That was actually the pledge we used to read every single morning when I was in elementary school at Dr. Bernard Harris Senior Elementary School. And it has played a very pivotal part in my life as an alum coming from that school. And I'm speaking out against closing that school particularly from a cultural perspective. We have a lot of challenges facing our city right now, and I think that we're going in the wrong direction by closing schools, particularly because you destroy that cultural connection that people have to the city, people have to their neighborhood, that people have to their communities. When you continuously close these schools and people really don't have much to go back to, especially with Dr. Bernard Harris in particular, it's supposed to become a surplus, which means the building will go back to the city after that. And there is mention that that building is supposed to still honor who the namesake is after, which is Dr. Bernard Harris, who was a physician who started his practice in our community, in all of our community, and was very hands-on in the community and gave back. And I just think there's a promise that can't be kept if you actually close the school, considering that we have no control over what will actually happen to the surplus of the building and no way to actually ensure that his legacy would continue to be honored. And I don't know if it's really an honor to someone's legacy to close a school named after them and to essentially let whatever replaces that to be up in the air for whatever chances that may follow. I'd also like to oppose the closing of the school from the perspective of that. I've actually learned recently that one of the reasons also cited is the enrollment of the school. They've been declining in enrollment over the last few years. But I also recently learned that we have new development happening in this city, and I'm pretty sure Councilman Stokes was here, and also Senator McCray could speak on that. That's happening in our community right now, where we're expected to get a projection of more residents who will come in, who will actually be able to speak to the enrollment or fill those spots that need to be filled in the school to make sure they have adequate funding to stay afloat and to provide sustainability to our community. And it's really honestly all the community also has left as well. We've lost a rec center. We've lost grocery stores. It's essentially a food desert. There's not really much left, especially for youth. And I know how much of an impact the school had on me as a youth. Particularly, we had an after-school program when I was there, and a lot of the staff, they were really hands-on. It made a huge difference in my life, particularly. So much to the point that I remember once when a friend of mine, we skipped after-school program, and we were so connected to the community, and the teachers were so connected to the community in our community that one of the teachers actually came to my house knowing that I was skipping after school and said, "Hey, Paris is supposed to be here today. We need him here." And as a kid, of course, like that, was kind of annoying because like, we went to skip after school work on the day. But as an adult now that I am, taking care of myself and a law student at the University of Baltimore School of Law, I've realized how important those lessons and that investment that teachers in that school had on me and how important that was. Even so down to, as I said in the pledge earlier, like when we learned, of course, the motto was to strive not to equal but to excel. And I still carry on that same energy today. Let's see. The other reason, of course, is I've cited the Dr. Brown Harris's legacy and what he did for the community, the projected influx of students that will help with the enrollment. I think I did not mention the fact that, like, as other parents and other concerned community members have voiced today, is that the other two options for students to go to from our community for schools would be Johnson Square, which is south of Dr. Bernard Harris, and Hartford Heights, which is the new 21st Century School, which is north of Dr. Bernard Harris, both of which would require students who live in the Olive community specifically to commute across North Avenue, which again, we mentioned is a very busy street and extremely dangerous and unfamiliar to a lot of those particular concerned residents and parents, as well as Biddle Street, which is the south street they would have to cross for students who would be sent to Johnson Square. And even other residents have cited, like, we've had multiple accidents on Biddle Street in that area. We just recently began to get the city to place the safety barriers, or I'm not sure, the flex roads, I think they go.
Sorry, Mr. Holmes, your time is up. Can you wrap up your thought?
Absolutely. So again, for all the reasons cited, the fact that we want to honor Dr. Bernard Harris's legacy, we want to make sure that students are safe going to and from school. And of course, the fact that this is really all the students that in our community have left to come to, are the reasons I would love for this particular Board of Commissioners to please reject the recommendation to close Dr. Bernard Harris. Thank you so much for your time, and I apologize for going over.
No, thank you for your testimony. Okay, next we have another email to be read from Bridge Dumas. Dear Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners. My name is Bridge Dumas, and I am a resident of Bolton Hill. I'm submitting testimony as a community member in opposition to the proposal to close Utah Marshburn Elementary School. A dear friend of mine is a teacher at EMES, and through her, I've seen unparalleled dedication to the students of EMES from her and her coworkers. She and other teachers at EMES have succeeded in creating a school environment where students are able to learn and thrive using their creativity and building a strong school community. If EMES were to close, it would rob both the students and their teachers of the community they built together over years of dedicated work. Displacing the students and teachers to other schools will put that community building back to square one. There's plenty of evidence that shows when students have a strong community, they perform better in school. Furthermore, I'm concerned that what will happen to the EMES building if it were to close. My city council person has said there are no plans for what the city would do if the building were to become vacant. Having another vacant building would not benefit our neighborhood, as it would increase blight and signals that our community does not care about children's education, which is untrue. When children receive a quality education, it benefits our entire community. I was one of the advocates to help pass the Build to Learn Act of 2020, the Maryland General Assembly. This legislation includes funding for the Aging Schools Program and the School Safety Grant Program, and consolidate that into the Public School Facilities Priority Fund. Additionally, the Baltimore City Public Schools Construction and the Revitalization Act of 2013 included a 21st century school buildings plan and provided a 10-year allocation for school construction and repair in Baltimore City. Certainly, some of this funding can be allocated to renovate EMES rather than closing its doors. I'm in support of the following demands: withdrawing the recommendation to close Utah Marshburn Elementary School, or vote against the proposal to close Utah Marshburn Elementary School. Give the school community a minimum of two full school years to improve our student enrollment before revisiting a recommendation to close. Invest in robust programming and learning opportunities at Utah Marshburn Elementary School to incentivize enrollment for families and students and families. Renovate our school building expeditiously to give us the 21st century school building we were promised. Thank you for your consideration. I hope that EMES will remain open as it is a vital part of the Bolton Hill community where I live. Respectively, Bridge Dumai. And next, we have an email from Brian Zubek. Okay. To BCBS and all, sorry, to Baltimore City Public Schools and all parties. I am writing as both I am writing as both a neighbor and on behalf of Sowebo Community Church, which has partnered with and met in Stuart Hill Academic Academy since the 2015-2016 school year. To close SHAA will leave a hole in our community, heaping further trauma on a district that has seen generational disinvestment. As the community is willing to invest in this school, we're asking city schools to make the necessary repairs it is neglected for the past decade and recommit to the educational plan as SHAA. Please consider the following. Children traveling from areas of Mount Clair up Monroe and or Fulton and crossing West Baltimore Street with commutes averaging over half a mile are unacceptable. This route is one of the highest crime districts in Baltimore. SHAA leadership and the community have a joint vision for improvements. Some of these include adult education possibilities, a computer/technology/meeting space for parent and community members that is near completion. This is SWP's thousands of dollars of investment. Catholic Charities Active Head Start program, which also updated light fixtures throughout the school, thousands of dollars in investments. SWP is securing a $20,000 for the first phase of a new health suite, new restrooms, and improved lobby on the ground floor to pass the updates at Franklin. This redesigned entrance will make it possible to further use the auditorium side of the building for joint community ventures. SCC has invested $38,198 into the building improvements and summer programs at SHAA and has an additional minimum of $20,500 committed in 2022 for a total of $58,968 over 5 years. This improved auditorium is often described as one of the best in Baltimore City. Many of the 21st century school buildings do not have the caliber of professional stage curtains and equipment featured in SHAA, funded totally by our community. Sorry, give me one moment. Sorry, I'm having some tech issues with Adobe. Okay. Oh, there we go. All right. These combined investments, the mayor's commitment directly to West Baltimore development, and over $81 million federal dollars coming directly from Baltimore City education, show the community is dedicated as a whole to the improvement and support of the educational and safety needs of SHA families, the actual school building, and its resources in Anchor and Union Square. We request BCPSS make the investments needed to bring the facility up to workable order. BCPSS has been the ones to neglect this property for 10 plus years. They should be the ones to repair it and not further disenfranchise families and neighborhoods of color. It is not only SHAA that would close, but its closure would adversely affect an entire community of support and resources for families such as local daycares, adult programs, and children after school programs such as the Mission on Hollins. Current flooding comes not from groundwater, but unmaintained plumbing on the upper floors. F, an observation, 21st century schools budget between $31 and $90 million for new construction. The new community-focused center on West Baltimore Street is said to be renovated and brought up to code with an investment of only $12 million. What studies or alternative options have been completed to determine the feasibility of full improvements to SHAA to bring the building to 21st century standards. It seems that even a cost savings may be possible. G, as for further school comparisons, SHAA is fully air conditioned, saw some improvements in education standards over the last few years, and specialized in its social and emotional learning program. Attendance numbers in decline are on par with declines seen citywide and in BCPS's response to COVID learning. It is also likely that the lack of building maintenance directly correlates to the declining population for what students want to send their children to a school system that won't fix the roof. Please consider this testimony and what other city school has the level of neighborhood and community investment and buy-in that backs SHAA. The decision to neglect the school came 10 years ago. You now have the vote to further harm a community or invest in what is on its way to be leader in charge for BCPS. Thank you, Brian Zubek. Next, we have Dana Smith commenting live. Are you available? Okay. Yeah, all right, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. I want to say thank you guys for allowing me a chance to speak to the board members. Just want to wholeheartedly just come in and speak from the heart about my community that I love. I'm a 49-year resident of Cherry Hill. I'm currently the varsity head coach at New Era Academy. We just experienced our first playoff ever, where we made it to the second round of state playoffs this year, varsity football. All of our sports programs in the fall made state playoff runs this year. The kids absolutely love this school. We love this school. The community loves this school. Now, let's get to the recommendations of closure and things of that nature. The parents, the kids, are coming to me asking the question that I can't answer right now of closure, when, where, why, and how. And I'm just asking the board that we can get some kind of transparency from up top down to the guys at my level that are dealing with the public, the parents, and the kids about their future in their high school. And, disinvestment is always a thing thrown around. Major developments a thing being thrown around because of what's going across the bridge at Port Covington. Everybody's tying us to that. And maybe that's the reasoning why. I'm here to just talk on behalf of the kids and the parents and their concern for their high school careers, their kids' high school attendance and where we're trying to send them to. A lot of them have a lot of concern about going to Ben Franklin, which is heavily, gang activity in Brooklyn area. It's a lot of crime in Brooklyn. The communities don't necessarily get along. So, to divide us and try to send kids to Ben Franklin is not a viable option for our safety is concerned. And I'm not sure who knows about Ben Franklin and what's going on there, but Digital Harbor just had a kid arrested with a loaded firearm. We don't have, things like that are scaring parents when the letter came down about moving the kids to those two particular schools. My concern greatly as a long-time tenant of Cherry Hill, my whole 49 years, I've been mentoring in Cherry Hill since I was 17. I've been coaching youth football since I was 18. I've been at New Era Academy for 9 years. My heart and soul is about helping kids become better young men and women once they leave the facility, once they leave these schools. And from 14 to 18, these are the kids that we're complaining about, that we're worrying about, that are getting in trouble. They don't have career paths. They're out on the corners. They're breaking in cars. They're mugging old women. They're doing whatever they can that they think is viable, which we know is not. So to force high school kids to make harsh decisions in the middle of their high school careers is, to me, doesn't seem like a positive thing to do. So again, I'm asking for absolute transparency from the board because this is my first time speaking before the board itself. I always hear about, you have to get to North Avenue, like it's a bad thing. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I think you guys have, been doing the absolute best you could do for what, the city, and far as closures, things have to happen. Progress has to happen. We are aware of that. But speaking on behalf of Cherry Hill and New Era Academy, we definitely don't want the programming that's in New Era, which is viable to the success of a lot of youth that's coming through the program, our P-Tech program, our RTC program. All those things are, they're offering kids jobs at the plant down at Sprouse Point, coming out of school in the Water Rich program at $43,000 to $45,000 a year, which is great for an 18-year-old leaving out of high school. We have tremendous successful kids that are 18, 19 years old, have houses and cars, they're doing great, they're not in trouble, all because of that program. We have 4.0 students. We have kids that student athletes, like the picture that you see in front of you. These kids are student athletes doing wonderful. Grades are where they need to be because everybody knows if you play sports or you know about sports in high school, you have to pass to play. So these kids are passing their grade. They're attending school. They're participating in the activities that are there for them to participate in, and they're on their way to college. The one you see on the right-hand side, ninth grader, great kid. Grades are excellent. Comes to school, does what he has to do, no trouble. The two in the middle, two varsity football players, 12th graders, on their way to college, doing the right things, getting what they need from the school. Even being in the facility that we're in, we're making do and we're doing the best we can, and we're producing great young men and women out of the school. On the left hand side, 4-year soccer player starter, Esau kid, great kid, on his way to college. Went to the regional playoffs this year as a soccer team captain. Like, we have kids that are doing great in the community. They love their school, regardless of what everyone else talks about the facility and X, Y, and Z and why they want to close it and, other reasoning. We have kids that are doing great coming out of New York Academy.
Mr. Smith, you're at time if you can wrap up your thoughts.
Sure. I just want to, again, thank you guys for allowing me to speak before you on behalf of New York Academy, the kids, and the concerned parents about the future of their young men and women. And I just want to say, if we can have a deeper conversation about possible, not closing the school at all, if it has to close, about a new facility or anything of that nature, which I'm quite sure, will be talked about. But, again, thank you guys for allowing me to speak. Appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have a written comment from Stephen Howard. As a neighbor living 2 blocks from the school, I request that the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners reject the staff recommendation to close the Utah Marshburn Elementary School at the end of this school year. Furthermore, I request that the commissioners redouble efforts to support EMES number 11, build a stronger relationship with the neighbors in Promise Heights, offer full wraparound services and trauma-informed support systems to the entire EMES number 11 community. Rationale: I desire to support our neighbors, parents who are already struggling and don't deserve the inconvenience, upheaval, and added stress. I believe the disruption of the lives of vulnerable students on short notice during pandemic will be counter to educational goals. I do not believe that any school should be closed with less than a year's preparation. I believe the school system should minimize the number of elementary school students crossing the busy streets of North Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue. I reject the staff premise that students should pay the penalty for faulty instruction and/or neglected past maintenance. The staff recommendation fails to recognize the impact of 207 new units with 454 bedrooms slated to be built by 2025 on the site of Pedestal Gardens, immediately adjacent to the current school. Relationships and support provided by the Judy Center and Promise Heights out of the University of Maryland School of Social Work will be lost. Failure to appreciate the significant turnaround potential associated with recent school leadership changes. Probable loss of the Christmas Addicts Recreation Center and its social support structure if the school is closed. Problems associated with a 3-acre vacant lot. Return of open-air drug markets, graffiti, trash, and rats. Next, we have another state email to be read out loud from Rachel Zubek. Okay, here we go. Okay. Good evening. My name is Rachel Zubek, and I'm a neighbor/community member of 5.5 years and partner from Sowebo Community Church at Stuart Hill Academic Academy. I'm here to tell you how important Stewart Hill is to me, my church, and the Union Square community that I live in, and ask you to keep our school open. The recommendation to close Stewart Hill is based on the small school size, declining enrollment, and the condition of the school building. However, none of these are reasons why Stewart Hill needs to close, and there's no evidence that any of the benefits of closing the school will outweigh the harm done to students, families, and the community. Further, there have been many investments made to the school already, and it does not make sense to close it now. Declining enrollment is not unique to our school. It happens across the city. Why should the families, students, and community of Stewart Hill pay the price? Why would you close schools instead of making them more attractive for people to send their kids? As you will see later, Stewart Hill already has attractions for kids and families. The enrollment numbers used in recommendation don't include pre-K for this year, but do for other years. Enrollment only dropped during the pandemic, a hard year for schools everywhere, and went back up this year. It is true the school building is in need of repair. It has experienced years of neglect. Why is the answer to close Stewart Hill rather than work with the community and partners to address immediate needs? The recommendation to close Stewart Hill cites a stream that runs beneath the school building that causes flooding. The stream has been there for hundreds of years, since long before the school was built. If there had been such a problem, why was nothing done about it before? If it is not a long-standing issue, why does it mean the school needs to close? I live by the school and have never seen this as an issue. Stewart Hill is an essential part of the community. I live in this community and love seeing children and their parents walk to school every morning. It fills me with joy to step outside my house and hear students playing on the playground in the grassy lot across from my house. What will happen to this building and space if the school is closed? The space will go to ruin and be a sore spot in our community. I don't want to look across the street at another decaying, abandoned building. It should be used as it intended and given the love and support that it deserves to make the school a thriving one. Further, my church has been meeting in this building for years, and we value being partners with the staff, students, and families with Stewart Hill. It is a true community school. Families and students are supported by many services that are based not only at the school, but also in the surrounding community. If Stewart Hill is closed, students will no longer be able to attend school within blocks of Clay Pots, the Viva House, and the Christian Community Center. Closing Stewart Hill will also mean that the community will lose access to GED and ESL classes that were scheduled to start at the school from Baltimore City Community College, Head Start classes that were scheduled to move into Stewart Hill. Even though Frederick and Franklin Square are also community schools and do provide many of the same supports, closing Stewart Hill means that those supports will be farther away from people's homes, making them harder to access and maybe even impossible for some people. Stewart Hill is an essential part of the Stewart Hill provides before and after care for families. Frederick and Franklin Square don't have these programs currently. This is especially needed because the two new schools are so far away. Students in the Stewart Hill zone can easily walk to Stewart Hill. The area is flat and, thanks to community members, has lights and stop signs by the front and back of the buildings. It is at most less than half a mile away from students, and most students are a quarter mile away. Franklin Square is a half mile away, and Frederick is almost a mile away for all Stewart Hill students. Sending students to Frederick especially means they will have to cross many busy streets and dangerous intersections through an area that many families are uncomfortable with their elementary school-aged children walking through. There is also a pleasant park in front of the school, children playing and walk through a playground in the back of the school. Many families use after school and on the weekends to have fun together. Although Stewart Hill is a small school, it provides many benefits to students and families. A supportive family environment, partners such as Diamond on the Rise and Peace Players, strong outcomes for students in special education, student academic outcomes that are the same or better than many other schools in the area, including the schools the students would be sent to. Thanks to school leadership, Stewart Hill has just this year gotten a full-time ESOL program to support the increased number of Spanish-speaking students and families in our community who are zoned from Stewart Hill. It will take time for families to come back to Stewart Hill after they had to find other schools because of the lack of the ESOL program over the years. Closing Stewart Hill will mean that our neighborhood will lose a much-needed resource. Over the course of the pandemic, students have experienced trauma. Many have lost family members, families have been stressed and burdened, and they've had to deal with virtual learning. Bring them back to school in person only to close the school at the end of the year and send them to a new school will cause them even more trauma. The community and partners have come together to invest tens of thousands in the school. Almost 60,000 from Sowebo Community Church, my church, for physical improvements, including the auditorium and the teacher's lounge. Why waste this? 20,000 from the Baltimore Community Foundation through the Southwest Partnership for Community Space, thousands of dollars in money, time, and supplies from local businesses to improve the library and repaint the school building. Volunteer time and donations to spruce up the front of the school this school year to welcome families back. As I stated above, closing Stewart Hill will result in more disinvestment in our community. A vacant building on Union Square Park will greatly hurt ongoing community-led development initiatives, including the redevelopment of West Baltimore Street, the growth of the Mount Clair community, and the planned affordable housing development on Fulton Ave. The decision to close Stewart Hill seems to be purely reactionary with no consideration of the work that neighbors are doing to improve the community. Splitting the school zone at Gilmore makes no sense in terms of the community that is actually here. It cuts the neighborhoods of Mount Clair and Union Square in two, increasing an artificial divide between the east and west halves of each neighborhood. In conclusion, I am strongly asking the school board to save Stewart Hill by rejecting the recommendation that the school close at the end of this school year. Thank you for your time, Rachel Zubek. Okay, next we have another statement from Lisa Lawson. Okay. Dear Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to express my concerns regarding the proposed recommendation to close EMES at the end of the current 2021-2022 school year. My name is Lisa Lawson, and I'm a member of the community, an alumni, a parent of a pre-K student, and advocated and supporter of the Utah Marshmore Elementary School. AMES has always been a unique school with a heart of gold for students and faculty, producing generations of service-driven professional citizens. The close-knit relationships forged at EMES are lifelong. Parents of the EMES community are comfortable and feel safe knowing that their children are learning and thriving in an environment they can trust. We are actively in a global COVID-19 pandemic, and being shut down and fearful of the virus, in-person learning has really taken a lot of time to get used to. Some students are still taking advantage of virtual learning. My child and I are benefit greatly from EMES and all the services / resources they provide. The staff of the EMES Judy Center made it easy to learn to trust them and their amazing program in the midst of the pandemic. I'm sure the extra care from the entire staff of EMES gives parents calm and know they can trust that they're doing everything possible to keep everyone as safe as possible. On November 10th, 2021, parents received notice of the recommendation to close EMES due to exterior structural conditions and low enrollment. This proposed closing comes as a shock to everyone. Plans for EMES to be part of the 21st Century School Building Renovation Program have disappeared, and we want to know why and where those funds that were allocated for the renovation. At the November 22nd, 2021 meeting, we were told that the structural skin problems were just found out 18 months ago. If the problems are an immediate hazard to the staff and students, why aren't they addressed on a repair schedule? And the question of the 21st century renovation presents itself again. Why is the MES getting the renovations as promised? The timeline for this process doesn't give us adequate time to organize, research, and strategize on how to improve certain aspects of the proposed closing recommendation. In the steering meeting on November 30th, 2021, the community was told that 300 students was an acceptable enrollment number in BCPSS. The chart on page 11 of the Baltimore City Public Schools Annual Review of Schools 2021-2022 recommendations show that in the last 4 years, the enrollment, including during the 2020-2021 COVID-19 pandemic, the total only suffered by 52 students. There are tons of variables as to why the enrollment is down. We are awaiting the data that will substantiate the enrollment numbers from your board. Enrollment needs a boost, not a school closure. There are students that need this school to stay open, to have / keep normalcy in their lives. There are many questions that need answers. There's still more research and organizing to be done. There are more initiatives to be sought for EMES. Let's not steal the opportunity for greatness. Give us more time. Please consider voting against the proposed closing, or at least consider delaying the vote on January 11, 2022. Utah Marshmore Eagle Pride, we overcome any challenge and take it in stride. excellent every day with our heads held high. Something stopping our eagle pride. Keep Utah Marshburn Elementary School open. Thank you, Lisa Lawson. Okay, I just seen in the chat that Councilman Stokes would like to speak. Councilman Stokes, are you available?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Yes, I am. Thank you. Sorry. I just wanted to say that there's a lot of callers on the call. Audrey Carter, Diane Williams, Harry Spikes, that really oppose the closing of Dr. Bernard Harris. And I want to say is I go back to Dr. Bernard Harris when Miss Brown was the principal, when I ran the mass station under the Kirk Smoder administration. So I always had partnerships and relationships at Dr. Bernard Harris. I had a business that come in, they bought a smart board for their school. They opened up their Amazon account because some the teachers, the kids in their class were doing well. He opened up his Amazon account and let them spend $2,000 for provide supplies and whatever the school needed in the school. I look at when Samuel Gompers was on North Avenue, school system closed Samuel Gompers, they closed Rutland, they closed Madison, and now you're opposing to close Dr. Bernard Harris. If you look at the accidents that happened, if you go to Bond and Biddle, 2 summers ago, a summer ago, a lady was killed in that block because of the speeding. I was very successful to get a signal light put in there, but 47 accidents happened reported at that location. If you go to Preston and Bonds, Preston and Broadway, there's a lady who's a homeowner. 5 cars that ran into her steps. If you go to North Avenue, go east or west, they put in that traffic calm, they speed down there like it's the Indy 500. So you telling the kids, if, and I'm saying if, but I'm gonna fight it. But if that school closed, they gotta cross North Avenue to go to school, and then they gotta go south to Johnson Square, and we having traffic and accident issues right now. I totally oppose the closing of this school because if you look at it, the school have a $313,000 zero interest deficit on that school. Who's going to pay for that? Because you can close the school, but the deficit is still there. Is that going to be the taxpayers now got to pay for that $313,000 deficit that's on that school? Again, the parents, the teachers, the community have been very supportive of that school. So I totally and will fight to the last breath of my body to make sure that Dr. Bernard Harris School stay open.
Thank you, Councilman Stokes. I believe we also have Senator McCray on to also testify. Senator McCray, are you available?
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes.
The senator haven't spoke. There are some other community people and teachers and people that really work hard in the Oliver community that would like to speak.
I'm here, Robert.
It's really crucial, and I don't think people should be limited whether you got to register to speak. It's a crucial time right now in terms of that school. You talk about emotional. When you take kids out of school and tell them go to 2 other schools, that's emotional for them and their parents. But I would like to see some of the other callers on this call that very supportive of this school not closing, but want to speak out against the closing of Dr. Bernard Harris.
Mr. Gann, I'm on right now. I just was having a tough time finding the unmute button.
Okay. You are ready. Go ahead.
Thank you to my school board members, to all distinguished guests, to the councilmen. Just wanted to say glad to be here with you all tonight, unfortunately, under the trying circumstances. I come here today, for those that may not know, my name is Corey McCray. I'm the Maryland State Senator for the 45th Legislative District. And I come here today just to say that I vehemently oppose the closing of Bernard Harris Elementary School. When I say that I vehemently oppose it, I think about the reasons that was given for the closure, and just wanted to say I walk into the main one last in reference to enrollment, but I also think about the leadership. You know, when we talk about what happens at the school, I look at a school that has had three principals over the past 7 years. And I think that that starts with our elected officials and also North Avenue. I want to be mindful of that piece of it. So when we're talking about decisions, the leadership is there, or the consistent change in leadership is sometimes challenging for schools, but that's not on students and parents. That's on North Avenue and our elected officials, myself included. When I think about the structure of the building, we know the challenges that we face in the city of Baltimore in reference to our schools. We're trying our best to move in the right direction for these challenges. But the reality is that that does not bear on the students and the parents. They have no decision making in reference to that process. That bears on North Avenue. That bears on our elected leaderships, myself included, as what we set as a priority. So it shouldn't be as a reason or one of the stronger reasons for the closure. I'll lean in reference to enrollment from that standpoint. As Councilman Stokes has stated, Oliver is moving in the right direction. We've seen where Oliver has come together collectively over the past 2 decades to make sure that the growth happens in Oliver. We've seen where liquor stores, they've purchased the liquor licenses to make sure that they have been closed. They have watched the murder rate and the crime rate go down 50% within Oliver. We've watched 38% increase in population. We've watched vacancy drop. Whether you're on Preston Street, whether you're on Broadway, whatever it is, we've watched the home ownership grow, and we watched the community grow within the Oliver community. That's been done under the leadership of Bill. That's been done under the leadership of Rebuild Metro, and it's been collectively done as the Oliver Community Association and Johnson Square Community Association in reference to penetrating very, very hard. We look at the more recent census numbers, and it talks about the growth that happens within that community, and it talks about the shift and change that's happening. I would ask for each and every school board member, when you're looking at that piece of it and you're talking about the enrollment, please make sure that we're talking about all the growth that has happened, not some of the growth, not substandard information or not lack of information, but please make sure that you're taking all of that information in consideration. I would ask you to speak to the subject matter experts. I would ask you to speak to the folks that's doing the work inside of the community to make sure that you have a full picture of what the growth in that community looks like. If you do not know what I'm talking about Sojourner's Place. That's right there on Asquith Street. That's bringing 70 units right to the neighborhood. I'm talking about when you go down in Johnson Square, you see the houses that's been knocked down on the 400 block of Biddle Street and the growth that's happened. These are 2 communities that have master plans. And school board, I would say to you that there are a number of challenges in my communities, but this isn't one of them. When I look at South Clifton Park, when I look at Berea, when I look at Darley Park, when I look at Milton and Montford, I have challenges in those communities, but the same challenges aren't exhibited in Oliver and Johnson Square. A conversation with the stakeholders, with the people that's actually doing the work, will help to make sure that we clear that up. I'd also like to reemphasize that Madison Square Elementary, if we look 20 years ago, a school 3 blocks down from Bernard Harris, an elementary school, was closed within that community. That was walkable distance. As Councilman Stokes talked about, when you're looking at Hartford Heights, that's a main corridor of North Avenue that you're talking about K-5 would have to get to in order to be on that street. If you do not know what I'm talking about, imagine if you live at Caroline and Oliver and have to walk up to Hartford Heights. Imagine if you have to walk over to Johnson Square and crossing Hartford Avenue. This is not realistic. I know that it's within a 1 mile. So from a statistic standpoint, it may work, but from a realistic standpoint, it does not work for our elementary school young people. I'm just going to reemphasize some of the points that I made today. I talked about the leadership. The students and the parents do not get to pick the leadership. That is North Avenue that does that. That is our school board that does that. In some capacity, that is our elected officials that may do that. But the parents and students do not do that. When we look at the building condition, that is not choices that's made by our parents and our students and not the community. That is leadership making those types of decisions and setting what priority are. And then the last piece of it, just the enrollment. Please take a look. Please make sure that we have a stronger conversation about the information and the stakeholders that are doing the work and know what the real enrollment growth looks like, or the real growth in the community looks like in Johnson Square and the Oliver community. I just want to say one more time, thank you all for your leadership. I know this is not an easy task. These are not easy conversations to have, and it does not go light. And I just want to say thank you, because I know that you all are doing the work for our young people. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Senator McCray. We're going to get back into our list for public comment. Next, we have a video that was submitted by Tiana Sanders.
Hi everyone, my name is Tiana Sanders, she, they, and I am the guardian of a student at Stewart Hill Academic Academy who's in the 4th grade. He's been attending since 3rd grade last year when it was fully virtual. Something that has been very important to our family has been how Stewart Hill has been a hub of the community. It's not just for school, and in many ways, my little brother, who I have custody of, speaks and thinks of Stewart Hill as more than school. He rarely mentions class. He talks about times on the playground and after school programs and the friends and the community that he's made, and seeing them as we drive and walk around, letting those natural and organic relationships happen. Some of the after school programs have been Peace Players, Diamonds on the Rise, something called The Mission, and also the playground in Union Square Park. Our home is right on the 1400 block of Lombard, and our morning walks go from the 1400 block to Union Square Park to Stewart Hill. So the walk is a straight shot. It's very safe. I can see Tyler from when I walk or step out on the stoop to see him walk to meet the crossing guard, Miss Charlotte, who he knows by name and she invites to watch Star Trek all the time. He's pretty uninterested in that. Something else that's important to me has been, as you all know, Lombard has often been one of the thoroughfares for folks to drive and speed through. On our block, there are these Jersey walls that will be there for the foreseeable future until BGE finishes some work that they're doing. And that's made our street a lot safer for the students, and a lot of students I know come along that way too. So at least for as long as possible, we'll also have a safer road for the students to cross and walk along. A little bit of information about my situation is that my little brother moved with me in 2020. And he moved from a very small town in West Virginia. So moving to Baltimore City has been an adjustment for him. But I will say that having Stewart Hill in the community has made him feel more at home. Having a hub and having multiple relationships form from that and allow them to be in the neighborhood has been extremely helpful to his development and adjusting to the community. This feels like this is his neighborhood. And we both have had pretty tumultuous childhoods that involved a lot of change and a lot of moving around. I went to 4 different elementary schools. This is his 3rd elementary school. And the feeling of knowing you can complete it and that you're not just going to move at the end or in the middle of the year, I think was really helpful for him and feeling like he can really form long-lasting relationships. He's been extremely disappointed to think of his favorite teacher, Mr. Preston, needing to go to another school that might not be his school. And I was honest with him that a lot of his favorite teachers may not be in the same school as him. So there's the adjustment to new students that the Frederick or the Franklin Square Elementary Middle School students will already have those relationships. And being the new kid is hard. Being the new kid that moved is hard. And being the new kid who has a lot of trauma is hard. So just for my family, having Shay in the neighborhood is extremely beneficial to his emotional health and his social health. And I just think that besides all of the statistics about schooling and standardized testing, which we know does not work, and it hasn't worked for a long time, but it's a system that's hard to change, we really need to take into account the students and their emotional health and the emotional toll that changing schools will put on them. So my vote is to keep Shea open and do the necessary renovations. Thank you.
Okay. And just really quickly, just as a matter of process, I know somebody may be wondering as to how we kind of work with our elected officials to testify. And again, and this is traditionally we allow a courtesy to allow them to kind of speak freely. So again, just a kind of process note while we're here. Next, we have Ashia Parker, the Executive Director of No Boundaries Coalition. Ms. Parker, are you available? Okay. Next, we'll have J.R. Lee speaking live. J.R., are you available?
Yes, I am. Can you
Okay,
hear me?
great. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you guys for allowing me to speak. Tell you a little bit about myself. I am the chair of public safety for the Southwest Partnership. I own a business called Juice Lab, cold pressed juices here in the Hollands market. And I'm also, we own a construction company, a commercial construction company in the Hollands market area. And I'm also the vice president of the Southwest Partnership. Stewart Hill is very special to me because I was called there a couple of years back to plant a tree. And I didn't know why I was planting a tree. And I was a little hesitant about going up there, but I came up to plant a tree. And what I found out was it was a young baby that attended that school 2 days before the summer, lost her life coming out of that school trying to cross the street in a tragic accident. So we planted this tree. And once I planted that tree, I realized that I have to do something to keep this school open in honor and memory of this precious cargo who came out of that school, who didn't deserve what happened. And her family was devastated. So we planted this tree. And today, if you ride by that school, that tree is big, it's strong, it's powerful. And I believe if we close that school, what type of people are we to do something where there's an empty, hollow school closed that a young child who loved to sing lost her life coming out of that school? So that's what caused me to become a partner. And it's a very important date coming up in December, which is December 7th. This is our December the 7th, and I'm gonna tell you why. You're about to see the might of partners, of the principal, of the teachers, of the church, of the community leaders, right there at Stewart Hill, that I don't think any time ever have you seen where a community will come together to save this school that we owe to this young lady. And in closing, I took that walk to go to these schools that we want our blank canvases to attend. You can't send our kids up to Frederick. I challenge anyone to walk with me to take that same route to Frederick. And I'm gonna give you a landmark. It's the same distance if we would go from Stewart Hill to the downtown to the arena. It's the exact same distance. So that's give you something to really say that is a long path for some young children who shouldn't see the things that happen in these neighborhoods right now that we need to clean up. There is no see something, say something program as these kids go to school. You're not going to provide them any transportation. If you send them to Franklin Square, if you cross the center line of Baltimore Street, you're in another police district, even though the Franklin Square is under the umbrella of the Southwest Partnership. It's no way we can do our children this way. I'm a contractor. I believe in 21st century schools, but I also believe in 21st century students. We have to teach our young kids artificial intelligence. Man, we had so many things going on, 3D printing. We have to get these kids to learn this stuff in elementary school. We can't wait till the 11th and 12th and give them one college prep class and think they're going to go to college. The only way to change the system is to invest in our first and second graders. And I want to thank you guys for allowing me to hear some of the testimony. All these schools, in my opinion, should stay open because they're all a tool that we need to get our young children in order to be able to do things in this life. Now, I'm getting old, so I'm looking at my future. And if we close these schools, I don't know, man. So I'm just speaking from the heart. I want to thank you guys. And my recommendation for Stuart Hill is give us 2 years. I guarantee that school will go from worst to first. And you will be shaking my hand when you see me. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. I do want to go back to Ms. Parker, because actually I was informed that was an email to be read. So I'm going to read that email now. Okay. Dear School Board, my name is Ashia Parker, and I'm the Executive Director of the No Boundaries Coalition. No Boundaries Coalition is a resident-led advocacy organization building a unified and empowered Central West Baltimore across the boundaries of race, class, and neighborhoods. NBC, No Boundaries Coalition, NBC, mobilizes residents from 7 different neighborhoods in Baltimore City to challenge the culture of and the issues created by segregation. Our cross-neighborhood relationships build political capital and mobilize residents to address issues together. Currently, NBC is advocating for gun violence prevention, closing the digital divide, more opportunities for young people, increased voter turnout, increased census participation, and mobile food access in our neighborhoods. Our organization and community have supported Utah Marshburn Elementary over the years. We understand that the school has had low achievement, low enrollment, and a decaying school building. We also believe those factors have been perpetuated by the school system. Central West Baltimore has its challenges, but it also has a strong sense of community. The parents who send their students to Utah Marshburn trust their school community and they feel safe. With that said, there are improvements that can be made to make the school a better environment. We understand the vote on this closure must be made by January 11, 2022. That is not a lot of time to get the information out to the community and help organize parents. No Boundaries Coalition is asking that this matter is tabled or is extended to offer the community more time to share the correct information. If that is not an option, No Boundaries Coalition asks that the closing be postponed to the end of the school year 2023. That would give families more time to plan for future needs. We trust that the school board will listen to the sincere needs of our community and make the decision that will best suit us. Sincerely, Ashia Parker. Okay, next we have an email from Dr. Laura Dykes. Holland's Roundhouse, the neighborhood association of Holland's Market, stands for our neighbors in Union Square and Mount Clair in protesting the proposed closure of Stuart Hill Elementary School. Closing Stuart Hill Academic Academy not only hurts the children and parents, but all the surrounding community. Particularly affected is the Latina community, which is 20% in the neighborhood of Mount Clair. Stuart Hill Academic Academy's brand new ESOL program will attract those students, and the proposed alternate schools do not have the ESOL programs to support them. Stuart Hill Academic Academy is a small and intimate school, and as a whole and a specialist, it is a community school. It is a recipient of great community investment of volunteer time, labor, and money. These combine to make it a school that can be nurturing and intimate for kids and families in a way that larger schools, for all their economies of scale and more specialized offerings, can't be. The district puts a big emphasis on SEL, social emotional learning, and the Stuart Hill Academic Academy has some advantages in delivering SEL because of all these factors. Our city is talking a lot right now about trauma-informed care, and kids in our community are in a lot of trauma. It seems like this aspect of this school is one that could be supported and built up instead of dispersing this community and its hard-won social capital. The special ed and ESOL work underway are elements of this. Despite decades of limited facilities investment, community members have rallied over the past 5 years to invest tens of thousands of dollars into the school. Investments include almost $60,000 from the Sowebo Community Church for the auditorium, teachers' lounge, and other spaces, volunteer time and labor in painting the school interior and exterior, and renovating the media and the library and media center, and $20,000 from the Baltimore Community Foundation to create a community space within the building. The loss of this essential hub of community resources and a vacant building directly on Union Square Park will hurt the work of the Southwest Partnership, its anchor partners, the City of Baltimore and State of Maryland, in building an awesome community in Southwest Baltimore. I urge you to vote against the recommendation to close Stewart Hill Academic Academy at the end of the 2021-2022 school year. Okay, next we have a video from Abigail Bressith, although, give me one moment. I'm not sure if I have the granted access yet. Yeah, I will come back to that. At the moment, I don't have the access to both parts of the video. Next, I have a email from Dr. Chuck Callahan. Good evening. My name is Dr. Chuck Callahan. I'm a pediatrician, a hospital executive in population health, and a neighbor to the families whose children attend Stewart Hill Academic Academy. Stewart Hill is a crucial institution for our neighborhood, and its closure would have significant detrimental effect on the health and well-being of this community. I ask therefore that the school board carefully reconsider the decision to close this school. We cannot even begin to assess the emotional impact and trauma that children have suffered during the pandemic and the adverse impact that this could have on their health in a region of the city where average life expectancy is already 17 years shorter than that of North Central Baltimore. I know that the trauma and concern for potential adverse impact on health is close to the heart for the City Schools Board and to the CEO. Similar to what I learned in medicine, I believe that the economy of childhood education is based on relationship. The child, their parent/family, and the teacher. The currency of that economy is trust. As we begin a long recovery from the pandemic and piece together the parts of normal healthy development that children might have lost during these past years, this is not the year to be putting trust in those crucial educational relationships at risk by closing this school. Requiring the children to attend schools that are greater distance from their home also puts parents and families at risk. In Southwest Baltimore, 42% of families have no access to a vehicle, and for another 36%, only one vehicle might be available for a parent who is likely the need to use it to commute to work. That means that inevitably, the children will have to walk the longer distances to other schools. In many cases, an adult will have to accompany them, putting strain on family employment as well. Free after-school activities at SHAA and a number of close-by community organizations provide additional support for the children and family, further supporting parents' employment. Support for stable employment is another investment in children and families' long-term well-being and a crucial step towards ending the cycle of poverty that many families have endured for generations. The argument that attendance at SHAA is certainly the result of the pandemic. Many city schools have seen the same effect. In fact, both the Frederick, 36% decline, and Franklin Square, 37% decline schools, where these children would be redirected if SHAA were closed, have had greater declines than SHAA, 28%. Closing a neighborhood school and making the travel distance greater will not help attendance. As a member of Sowebo Community Church that met at SHAA prior to the pandemic, I can attest to the decline in the physical plant over the past 5 years, despite our churches and the community's financial investment in the school. No matter what might be said, it is very difficult to imagine that an elementary school in Roland Park would have been allowed to deteriorate to this level. What is broken in the building is repairable. The same cannot be easily said about the children and parents who will be affected by the school's closure. The city is gradually beginning to recover from COVID and the impact of the pandemic. It will take time. If there's a need to move forward with some school closures, I would urge the board to cancel or at very least delay the closure of SHAA, perhaps for 3 years. During this period, city schools can do needed repairs to the building and see as the community begins to grow through the development and investment that has already begun in the neighborhood, whether the children and families who rely on SHAA might grow and develop from investment as well. Okay. All right. I'm going to go back to Ms. Bresseth. One of my colleagues just sent it to me. Okay. And our testimony is a 2-part video.
Good evening to the school board and to city school in the engagement office. I'm a Baltimore City teacher. My name is Abigail Bryseth. I'm a resident of the Hollins Roundhouse neighborhood near Stewart Hill, and I am the chair of the Southwest Partnership Education Committee. I am opposed to closing Stewart Hill Academic Academy for several reasons, and I am speaking tonight to ask you to reject the recommendation to do so. I believe the changing demographics of the neighborhood, increased development, and the need for ESOL programming all challenge the district's expectation of continuing low enrollment at Stewart Hill. Enrollment was climbing before the pandemic, and it has been climbing back up recently. City schools projected rising enrollments in 2019, even though it projected static or declining Latinx population in Pigtown and Mount Clair. But now, according to the Baltimore Sun, Mount Clair is 20% Latinx. Before closing any more schools, I believe a zoning overhaul is in order, especially after so many years of closures and school choice affecting increasingly more and younger children. The district's decision to send children a mile away to Frederick, a charter with lower academic achievement, no after-school program, and no pre-K, both of which Stewart Hill has, instead of to several closer schools, which also include a charter school, points out the need to assess enrollments and program balance regionally, not school by school. Half the kindergartners in our area don't even attend city schools. There's recruitment work to do, and there's room to grow. Our committee would be delighted to partner in that work.
Okay, I'm going to play part 2 of the video.
Are we still on?
It can look like the district picks winners and losers, and I further believe it can look like the district picks winners and losers, and Stewart Hill has gotten the short end of the stick for years. For example,
Sorry.
I further believe it can look like the district picks winners and losers, and Stewart Hill has gotten the short end of the stick for years. For example, Stewart Hill has had its grade levels changed back and forth across the years. It has worked over several years to develop its many partnerships without any district support in becoming a community school. It has attracted significant investments and even facility upgrades from community organizations and partners, and developed a specialty in special ed all on its own. It just became a community school by state mandate, and it just got an ESOL program this year. In contrast, other schools in our area have had large institutional partnerships for many years that were rocky for a long time. They had district takeovers, alternate management structures, massive renovations, and specialized programs added. What could Stewart Hill do with the same investment, attention, and persistence? Stewart Hill right now is a small and intimate school. It has a wholeness specialist. It is a community school. Dr. Santelises came to our Southwest Partnership Education Committee meeting before the pandemic and told us that Stewart Hill was doing something wonderful with its special ed students and that the data reflected that. Many parents are alumni of the school, and half of the children there are out of zone, coming because the school is a rare source of stability and community for them. These combine to make it a school that is clearly nurturing and intimate for kids and families in a way that larger schools, for all of their economies of scale and more specialized offerings, can't. The district is putting a great emphasis on social emotional learning, and Stewart Hill has great advantages in delivering social emotional learning because of all these factors. Our city is talking a lot about trauma-informed care, and kids in our community are in a lot of trauma. It seems like this aspect of this school is one that could be supported and built up instead of dispersing this community and its hard-won social capital. So I urge the board to re-examine the assumptions that led to this recommendation and go back to the drawing board. Stewart Hill is serving its students and community, and the district itself has laid the groundwork for Stewart Hill to grow and transform and be part of the revitalization of Southwest Baltimore, the best neighborhood in Baltimore. Thank you and good night.
Okay, next we have a live comment from Dominique Bell. Dominique Bell, you're available. I don't see the phone number or them in the attendees, so I'm going to move on. Donnell Nance, and that is live testimony. Donnell Nance.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. You have 5 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. So I stand in direct opposition to the closure of Stewart Hill Academic Academy. I know tonight that you've heard a lot of testimony regarding, the tens of thousands of dollars that partners and community have put into the school. I mean, it's a lot of money, and it would be a severe slap in the face to each partner and each person that's volunteered their time, money, and just resources. I'm not going to recap what others have said. Trust me, I want to, but it's a lot to say in 5 minutes and throw mine in as well. But I think you get the point with that. What I want to touch on is the level of community, the level of safety that we provide for the students, the level of mentorship, and the level of love that we provide for the students. What other community can you honestly say has a community reach out and look out program for the kids that, the residents don't mind going outside, walking with the students, speaking with the students, mentoring the students. I personally, pre-pandemic, volunteered every Monday and Friday at the school, holding lunch bunch to teach the students leadership. In order to, help with attendance and things of that sort, or throw a pizza party and make sure that, students are eating, things of that sort. It's not many communities that you can honestly say have such a level of care for their local school. We have neighbors that have gone into the school in order to develop literacy programs for Stewart Hill. The program Book Buddies was started pre-pandemic. We have the mission, or the Christian Community Center that works. 70% of students come from Stewart Hill Academic Academy. They go there, they get the help that they need. If I'm not mistaken, I think one of the teachers at the mission actually teaches at the school as well, and walks with the students on a daily basis from the school to the mission, just mentoring them. JR spoke earlier about planting a tree for the young lady that unfortunately was hit by a car. when I was younger, I attended Stuart Hill. I attended Stuart Hill when it only went up to second grade, and we had to transfer out to Franklin Square. I was one of the lucky students that, didn't have to go very far. I could go to Franklin Square, but the recommendation that you guys are proposing is to close the school and send them to an area that's far more dangerous than some other areas that were previously mentioned on the phone, or this call rather. We talked about that young lady, and from what I can remember in the 20 plus years that I've been in this community, she's not the only one that was killed, but the difference between, that was killed by car accident. But the difference between the first young person that I'm aware of and this one is that the community came out as one and just supported each other, supported the family of the young lady, as well as supported the school, because that's what we do. That's what Union Square does. That's what the Southwest general area, the communities do. I looked at the school report for the repairs that are needed, and most of the repairs that are needed, some of them haven't been touched since I was a student there well over 25 years ago. That is direct neglect from North Avenue, from the city, the state, whoever does the repairs. When discussed, why are you shutting down? We were told because enrollment is low. Well, you've heard a lot about that during this call. There are a lot of schools that were mentioned, 3 in particular, that have low enrollments right around each other. So that's not a real excuse, especially coming back from a pandemic. The next excuse was because of the building maintenance. Well, that's been something that has been proven neglect over the years. There was a leaking shower in a basement where a ticket was put in for repair, and no one would come out and repair it for over a year. That's not normal wear and tear. That's neglect. And then when we asked again, they finally said, well, there's a stream that runs under the school. Well, that stream has been there for a couple hundred years. It runs under every single one of our homes here in Union Square. You don't see us jumping ship.
Mr. Nance, you're at time if you can wrap up your thoughts.
Okay, I'll wrap it up. Make long story short, this is something that you guys were aware of when you built the school in the 60s or 70s. You're taking these students and putting them in an older school as opposed to just fixing what you guys have neglected over the years. I do ask that you guys reject the recommendation of closing Stuart Hill and just making the repairs that are needed and leaving the students in a safer area. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Next, we have another email to be read. This is from Elizabeth Weber. Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Weber, and I'm the program director at the Southwest Partnership. We have worked closely with Stuart Hill for years, and I'm writing to urge you to keep the school open. Stuart Hill is in the Southwest Partnership area and is the zone school for 2 of our neighborhoods. Mount Clair and Union Square. It is an essential part of our community, an important home for students and families, and the hub of many resources. Closing Stuart Hill will harm students, families, and the surrounding community. According to this year's annual portfolio recommendations, the recommendation to close Stuart Hill is based on the small school size, declining enrollment, and the condition of the school building. Although Stuart Hill has had a decline in enrollment in the past 3 years, most of the decline came last school year during the pandemic. In fact, the actual enrollment this year, including pre-K students, which are included in all the other year calculations used by Baltimore City Schools as evidence of declining enrollment, is 199, more than last year. It is true that the school building is in need of repair. It has experienced years of neglect. Why is the answer to close Stuart Hill rather than work with the community and partners to address immediate needs? If Stuart Hill wasn't a priority to repair, why is it that now it is in such bad condition that it needs to close? Families, community partners, and neighbors have invested almost $100,000 in the school in recent years and are committed to continuing to do so. Planned investments include completing a community space, a new teacher's lounge, and investments to bring Head Start classrooms into the school, something that is very needed in our community. I understand that the current strategy around closing schools to essentially combine smaller school communities in order to increase school budgets. Is there any evidence that students actually have better outcomes at these larger schools, or that families are choosing to send their children to a school they have been rezoned for rather than utilizing school choice or leaving the district? How is the strategy being evaluated? Neighborhoods with declining population and school enrollment are the same neighborhoods in the city that have been redlined, been destroyed by projects such as the Highway to Nowhere, and generally borne the brunt of racist planning and policies. A school is more than a building where parents are taught. It is a family, a hub of resources, and an essential heart of the surrounding community. Closing schools because they are in areas of population loss will only accelerate the population loss, continue legacies of disinvestment, and jeopardizing investments made by the city, the state, private foundations, our anchor partners, neighborhood residents, and the Southwest Partnership. Stewart Hill is a true community school. Families and students are supported by many services that are based not only at the school, but also in the surrounding community. If Stewart Hill is closed, students will no longer be attending schools within blocks of clay pots, a grassroots community center, the Viva House, which has provided food and other support to the community for 50 years, and the Christian Community Center, free after-school care and programming for students. Closing Stewart Hill also means the community will lose access to GED and ESL classes that were scheduled at the start at the school from Baltimore City Community College, the auditorium and community space of the school, and the Head Start classes that were scheduled to move into Stewart Hill. Stewart Hill is an essential part of our community. Please don't continue decades of disinvestment by closing the school. Elizabeth Weber. And she's with the Southwest Partnership. Next, we have an email from Anthony Scott. The board of directors of Southwest Partnerships is opposed to the recommendation by the CEO of Baltimore City Public Schools to close the Stewart Hill Academic Academy, school number 4, at the end of the 2021-2022 school year, and to rezone students currently within the Stewart Hill zone to Frederick Elementary/Middle School if they live west of Gilmore Street, and Franklin Square Elementary School if they live east of Gilmore Street. Closing Stewart Hill Academic Academy will have a devastating impact on children, families, and our community as a whole. The Southwest Partnership is a coalition of 7 neighborhood associations and 6 anchor institutions in Southwest Baltimore. We envision an awesome, healthy, architecturally beautiful, diverse, cohesive community of choice built on mutual respect and shared responsibility. We embrace all diversity, from race, gender, and sexual orientation to economic, education, and housing choice. Our diversity is our strength. The Southwest Partnership is a community-led community development organization. Our board of directors is made up of a representative from each of our member neighborhood associations and anchor institutions, and the elected chair of each of our program committees. Our member neighborhoods are Bar Circle, Franklin Square, Hollins Roundhouse, Mount Clair, Pigtown, Poppleton, and Union Square. Stewart Hill is the Union Square neighborhood and serves students and families living in Union Square and Mount Clair. It is an important asset in our community, a community school that connects neighborhoods and neighbors and is a hub for services and resources for students, families, and neighbors. Losing Stewart Hill would have a tremendous negative impact on Union Square, Mount Clair, and all the neighborhoods in the Southwest Partnership, and we are opposed to the recommendation that Stewart Hill be closed. However, if the recommendation to close Stewart Hill is accepted, we are requesting that families of current Stewart Hill students be given the opportunity to send their children closer to home in Frederick Elementary/Middle School, and that the old Stewart Hill zone be adjusted so that families living in Mount Clair and Union Square are zoned for schools closer to their homes than Frederick Elementary/Middle School. Frederick is almost a mile away from our neighborhoods, and children have to cross busy streets and dangerous intersections to reach the school. Additionally, dividing the school zone along Gilmore Street splits our neighborhoods in two, harming community cohesion and connectivity. Again, the Southwest Partnership is opposed to the recommendation to close Stewart Hill Academic Academy, school number 4. However, if the school is closed, we request that the families be able to send their children to schools closer to home than Frederick Elementary/Middle School, and that the old Stewart Hill zone be adjusted so that families living in Mount Clair and Union Square zoned for schools closer to home. Southwest Partnership. Okay. Next we have Walter Howard. Dear Ms. Richardson and Board of Commissioners, I oppose the recommendation by Baltimore City Public Schools staff to close Utah Marshburn Elementary School. Having been a volunteer, a booster, a supporter, and neighbor since 2003, I know the school is an integral and essential part of our central West Baltimore community, and the closure would tear the fabric of our community into three pieces, flung a half mile away in three directions. Others will criticize the preposterous timeline given for response to the notice dated November 9, 2021. Parents can express the harm and trauma related to splitting kids up after all they've been through over the past 2 years. I want to address the claims by the facility design and construction staff about the cracks and the serious structural weaknesses that have evolved until we need to replace the entire skin of the building at an estimated cost of $14 million. This does not ring true, and there's an astonishing lack of transparency. That $14 million was a guesstimate thrown out in the heat of the moment by your facilities team and has no basis in reality. At the November 22nd community meeting, after a long presentation and many comments by angry parents, I asked Cindy Smith and Maurice Gaskins from facilities to show me the cracks. I gave them my contact information and explained that I am a near neighbor of the school. They would not show me that morning. I was expecting a call that never came. I reached out to them on the morning of the 23rd and did not hear back by the morning of November 30. I went and found the cracks on my own and took pictures, which I sent to a structural engineer I know from Tarantino Engineering Consultants PC, and he replied the cracks did not appear to be a structural problem, but more of a cosmetic issue that may have been caused by a lack of maintenance. I shared that with facilities, and now they refuse to tour the building with us at all. The report presented to us on November 22nd listed a number of capital projects from 2007 and 2020, but I went back to CEFMP 2018 report, which listed several projects that were not mentioned, including caulking and sealing of the windows in 2009 at a cost of $29,000. So why are the cracks only being noticed now? Your notice says, while the structural challenge is not of immediate concern, it means that the building should not be used as a school long term. I beg to differ. I think we can fill the cracks and replace the windows and install AC as it was supposed to be in design in 2000. It's a shame that the work was not completed while the building was empty. The entire skin of the building does not need to be replaced. A lot of the facade is brick and it's just fine. The building surfaces at the entry doors and the corners and the back are fine. It's only areas where windows occur that require special attention, and the work is long overdue. We need, okay. There's a formal part, but just kind of per our policy, we do not talk about personal things with staff. So I'm not going to read this last part, but that was the last part. So yours truly, Walter Montgomery Howard. Okay, next we have emails from Ashley Watson and Kenneth Watson Jr. Okay. To whom it may concern, as a property owner, business owner, and resident of the Union Square community, the recommendation to close Stewart Hill is based on the small school size, declining enrollment, and the condition of the school building. However, none of these are reasons why Stewart Hill needs to close, and there is no evidence that any of the supposed benefits of closing the school will outweigh the harm done to students, families, and the community. Overall, SHA's enrollment decline is not unique to the school or markedly higher than other schools in the area, including the schools that SHA students would be sent to. Largest enrollment decline is a result of the pandemic, and enrollment has increased this year, which is not accurately reflected in the recommendations to close, as pre-K students are not included. We do not support the decision to close SHAA and look forward to seeing future leaders being educated there. And as Ashley and Ken Watkins of the Graywood Group. Watson, excuse me. Okay, next we have an email from Kentara Barbour. The following email is written on behalf of the families in the Mount Clair community that will be negatively affected by the Stewart Hill school closing. Our community group has engaged community members regarding this topic, and the ability for many of them to advocate on behalf of their children regarding the school closing is challenging during the scheduled meeting times. These challenges include not being computer literate, not having access to a computer, working evenings, and not speaking English as a primary language. We are asking that the Board of School Commissioners not accept the recommendation to close Stewart Hill School at the end of this school year. This will be another devastating blow to our disenfranchised community. Local schools are often the only institutions to provide a sense of stability and pride for low-income neighborhoods like ours. Disinvestment has been a common theme in our community, and this decision highlights this reoccurring premise. The fact that this recommendation was made without engaging the families that will be negatively impacted is evidence that members of our community are often regarded as being irrelevant. The belief that the school is in such disrepair that it needs to be closed is a result of decades of neglect and being unsubsidized. This sheds light to how schools in our community don't receive the funding and bare necessities that they should. This shouldn't be a price that our children must pay. They deserve a fair chance to learn and thrive in a familiar space. Throughout the years, despite the lack of investment, the community has found ways to improve and maintain Stewart Hill through private funding and partnerships. We're dedicated to continuing these efforts in order to improve this essential community school. Safety is also a very large concern. The school is within walking distance of our community and makes it easier and safer for children who have to commute alone to get to school. This decision will be another challenge added to a number of other factors that children in majority Black, brown, urban neighborhoods have to deal with. This may not be of concern to individuals with children that can bus to school or parents that can drop them off, but many of our neighborhood children are responsible for getting to school on their own. They do not have the luxury of having parents safely drive them or walk with them to school. The children will be forced to travel a longer distance through high crime areas. Many of our community's parents are also worried that the quality of education and programs that their children currently receive will be reduced. This is a major fear, especially to the parents of children that don't speak English as a primary language. This decision will mean that the children in the proposed schools will have to engage in larger class sizes with less individual attention. The overall concern is that the students' displacement from their school will be detrimental to their academic success and create additional hardships for the children and parents who don't have the means to provide safe transportation to the proposed schools. We feel very strongly that closing Stewart Hill School is not the right choice to make. Instead of taking away a strong institution in our community, we are requesting the opportunity to implement joint efforts to revitalize the school for our children. Sincerely, Kentara Barbour, President, Mount Clair Community Council. Okay, next we have
Christian, before you go to the next speaker, there are some concerns in the chat that folks who signed up won't be able to speak tonight. So I just want you to speak to that, and then we can go to the next speaker.
Yes, absolutely. We are allowing everyone who signed up within the time period will be allowed to speak. And I'm looking at our list now, so I do see some of the on the fly signups, and then the other folks will have an opportunity to speak at the special hearing, and alternatively, folks will also sign up for the regular public comment at the board meeting. That's another option. So,
Christian, how many more people do we have that signed up?
Roughly about 15, roughly.
Okay.
All right. Okay. I'm gonna move on. Okay, next we have email to be read from Daniel Morrison. My name is Daniel Morrison, and I'm a member of the Sowebo Community Church, which met inside of Stewart Hill Academic Academy before the pandemic. I currently live in the Carrollton Ridge neighborhood, but I'm buying a house and moving into the Mount Clair neighborhood. To have my own investment in the neighborhood met by a recommendation for simultaneous disinvestment by the city is disheartening. Stewart Hill is an anchor in the community, as the history of robust community-led investment in the school shows. Sowebo Community Church has invested close to $60,000 into the auditorium after-school program and facilities. Catholic Charities has donated thousands of dollars toward the Head Start program. The Southwest Partnership and its partners are close to finalizing a substantial grant towards funding a new health suite. It is clear that the community has demonstrated a commitment to investing in the school and the programs it makes possible. The question is, why is the city not shown a similar commitment? Decline in enrollment was given as a reason for closure. However, the numbers used were skewed. They contrasted enrollment numbers from previous years, which included pre-K, with numbers from this year, which omitted pre-K. The enrollment numbers actually increased from last year to this year, 187 to 199. Concerning the facilities, the roof finishes were reportedly installed in 1991. The issues with the roof have surely not come up suddenly and should have been addressed proactively as a matter of routine maintenance. The roof's condition is not the community's fault, and the community should not be punished for the city's neglect. As an educator myself, I know that the brain cannot learn when it does not feel safe. If Stewart Hill closes, many students will be forced to walk longer distances to school on streets where I, as an adult, do not feel safe. This will almost certainly result in elevated levels of stress hormones, which greatly hinder the brain's capacity to absorb new information every day when they arrive at school. This is setting them up for failure in learning and is antithetical to the educational goals of the school district. In my own teaching experience, I found that lower student-to-teacher ratios, such as those at smaller schools like Stewart Hill, provide greater benefits for learning. While a larger budget for equipment is helpful, ultimately it's a relationship between teacher and students that leads to a healthy environment. Students are not motivated to attend school because of the quality of the supplies. Attendance is motivated by a positive sense of connection to teachers and other students, which is crucial for a culture of learning. If the school board trades lower student-to-teacher ratios for a larger equipment budget, I believe it may well see poorer student performance because supplies alone cannot foster the meaningful student-teacher relationship that propel learning. The problems cited for the closure of Stewart Hill are symptomatic of deeper issues of historic disinvestment in the community. In spite of this, the community is working on efforts such as the commercial revitalization along West Baltimore Street in the Hollands Market, as well as the rehabilitation of homes in Mount Clair, the developers working with the Southwest Partnership. For the city to further disinvest in an already underserved community, which is actively working to attract new residents, is a mistake. The answer to disinvestment is not more disinvestment. We cannot cure decades of neglect with more neglect. I urge you to reject the recommendation to close Stewart Hill. Thank you, Daniel Morrison. Okay, next we have a email from Chris Bowling. Good evening. My name is Chris Bowling, and I'm a community member concerned about closing Stewart Hill Academic Academy. I'm here to tell you how important Stewart Hill is to our community and the local neighborhoods, and ask you to please keep our school open. The recommendation to close Stewart Hill seems to be based on small school size, declining enrollment, and the poor condition of the building. These specific issues are not strong enough to outweigh the harm that will be done by students, families, and the neighborhood by closing the school. Stewart Hill has funding and support from local residents, the Southwest Partnership, churches, and other private foundations, and not recognizing these efforts to keep this school enlivened is appalling. Schools are not just places for learning, but also community centers, support, and needs fulfillment locations, and anchors to neighborhoods. Removing this school from our kids and neighborhood is a bad decision. Declining enrollment is a citywide concern and not unique to Stewart Hill, especially during times of COVID. Given that the community is working to improve this school, Why not be part of helping to make it more attractive for current and future residents? There's a robust pre-K program currently at the school, which is not factored into the enrollment totals, but should be considered. Southwest Partnership is working with the community to build a base of corporate and private sponsors who may be able to help with infrastructure and learning programs. Years of neglect from the city has only compounded the issues needed to be addressed, which is shameful. Stewart Hill has offered many services and programs to kids and people in our community for many years. By closing it, we would lose our location for GED and ESL classes provided by Baltimore City Community College. Head Start and other pre-K programs will be removed, as well as aftercare programs, and there are few other local options for these services for smaller children. Even though Frederick and Franklin Square Elementary Schools offer similar programs, they are much farther and more difficult to reach due to dangerous roadways, intersections, and distance. They say a heart makes a home, and the same is true for Stewart Hill. Our community has put its heart into this school to make it a supportive family environment. It sponsors youth enrichment programs through Diamonds on the Rise and the Peace Players. Special education students, as well as the general population of students, are seeing better academic outcomes, equal or better to many others in the area. Stewart Hill has retained funding from various sources. Sowebo Community Church, which was mentioned previously, $60,000, as well as the Baltimore Community Foundation for $20,000, also previously mentioned. Closing Stewart Hill will result in disinvestment in our community. A vacant building on Union Square Park will greatly hurt ongoing community-led development initiatives, including the redevelopment of West Baltimore Street, the growth of the Mount Clair community, and planned affordable housing development on Fulton Ave. The decision to close Stewart Hill seems to be purely reactionary, with no consideration for the work that neighbors are doing to improve the community. Additionally, splitting the school zone at Gilmore Street makes no sense in terms of the current neighborhoods, as it cuts Mount Clair and Union Square in two. It creates an artificial divide between the east and west halves, between the east and west halves of each neighborhood. Conclusion, I'm asking the school board to save Stewart Hill by rejecting the recommendation that the school close at the end of this school year. Okay, next we have an email from Julie Riddick. To whom it may concern, my name is Julie Riddick, and I'm a first grade teacher in my third year here at SHAA. I feel strongly against the recommendation to close Stewart Hill Academic Academy. I'd like to address the assumption City Schools is making in stating that our small size limits our ability to have strong, well-rounded, rich, and varied programming. I've been in many schools of a healthier size during my internship years that did not compare to the richness we have here at SHA. I would argue that it's because of our small size that we are able to provide students with what they need to succeed educationally and emotionally. It is because of our small size that we are able to maintain a family-like restorative climate. It is because of our small size that we received grants and community help to improve and beautify our school building, which BCPSS has thought unworthy of investment. I don't think it is fair to assume our children are lacking a well-rounded educational experience, and I would challenge the district to name specifically what we're lacking so we can address it. Second, I want to draw your attention to the rich community involvement programs and partnerships we have here at SHAA. Below is a list of our community partners for reference. At the bottom of the list, you will notice a place called Christian Community Center. Known as The Mission, it serves as a free place for SHA students to safely play, have a snack, and engage in Bible classes every day after school. The Mission is my favorite community partner because my father is the director. The Mission has been a staple of the community for over 30 years, teaching children the Bible, encouraging them to make wise choices in life, and providing them with a safe place to play. Located a block away from SHAA, the Mission is attended primarily by SHAA students. We earnestly hope that the recommendation will be dismissed. In closing, I encourage the board to consider the benefits of having a small, community-supported school and recognize what we do have. I ask you to understand and acknowledge that attendance plus funding does not equal strong, well-rounded, rich academic programming. We already have that in our own way. We have been thriving thus far and will continue to for as long as you allow us. And the community partners are Roberta's House, Womb Works, Restorative Practices, Sowebo Church, Diamonds in the Rise, Southwest Partners, Towson University, the Juice Lab, BCPS Climate, Maryland Legal Aid, BCPS Homeless Supports, BCPS Home and Hospital, Backpack Survival Program, Operation Warm, Vision for Baltimore, Gifted and Advanced Learning, GLSEN, No Place for Hate, and Christian Community Center. Sincerely, Julie Riddick. And she is a teacher. Julie is a teacher. Next, we have an email from Linda Callahan. To whom it may concern, my name is Linda Callahan. I've lived across the street from Stuart Hill Academic Academy for over 5 years, attend Sowebo Community Church, and I'm a member of the Union Square Association. I'm writing to speak out against the proposed closure of SHAA. Stuart Hill is very important to our community. Many of our most disadvantaged students are able to walk safely to the school. The school provides before and after care that is so essential for working parents. It is in close proximity to the Christian Center, another after-school alternative attended by many SHAA students. The walk from our neighborhood to Frederick School is fraught with danger. It's also quite a distance and would present a real hardship for many families since the district does not provide bus transportation and young children could not traverse the distance alone, either on foot or by bus. I work in another city school, and I know from experience these types of barriers decrease attendance and therefore hinder academic progress. SHAA provides needed services. The state is poised to receive a lot of money for enhancing early childhood systems. Stuart Hill is in conversation to host a much-needed Head Start in our area. Additionally, SHAA provides ESOL program that serves the increasing number of Latinx students in our neighborhood. While it's true that the building is in need of repairs, the school has been chronically underfunded and neglected by BCPSS. Before COVID, Sowebo Community Church met in Stuart Hill's auditorium. Our church has invested a great deal of money to improve the auditorium to make it a great place for the school, our church, and other community events. Our congregation is committed to an ongoing partnership with Stuart Hill staff and students, as is the Union Square Association. We want to see this school continue to survive and thrive as a place for the entire community to learn and grow. We ask the board to reconsider its recommendation for the closure of Stuart Hill and to keep our school open. Okay, I'm gonna Diane Williams. Lindsay, if you're on, I don't see the categorization, so I don't know if they were an email or, hold on, let me check. I don't know if, Lindsay, if you're on, I don't know if they were email or live.
She was live.
Okay, Ms. Williams? Okay. Next we have Audrey Carter, and that's also live testimony. Audrey?
Hold on. Good.
Oh, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay, my apologies. Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for staying on here. It is really taxing. But my name is Audrey Carter, and I'm with the People's Association of Oliver Community, as well as Zion Baptist Church, and also just a community advocate in general. And I oppose the recommendation regarding Dr. Bernard Harris School 250 and state that the reasons given for closing it are frivolous, according to myself, and clearly don't justify closing the school. And doing so would drastically and dramatically disrupt the lives of our children, our parents, and our community. The annual report that was given out says the challenges with Dr. Bernard Harris is low enrollment, the struggle to offer robust programming, inability to balance budget over several years, and poor building structure. The report actually says that Johnson Square has the same issues, yet they are not recommended to close. In addition, based on the annual report and my personal knowledge and experience regarding both schools, Johnson Square's overall enrollment, programming, budgets, and building structure are actually worse than Dr. Bernard Harris. This is Hartford Heights' first year as a new school, so no real data is here to compare it with. Regarding the school climate, according to the annual report, Dr. Bernard Harris had a better school climate with regard to attendance rate and suspensions. In actuality, several parents requested that their children be transferred from Johnson Square to Dr. Barnard Harris. And my question is, have you considered the teacher-student ratio if those children are moved? I'm sure you have, but how it will affect them psychologically as well as traumatically. The fact that they will have to return back to those schools will psychologically traumatize them. From a generational standpoint, I graduated from there, my son graduated from there, and one of my grandchildren graduated from Dr. Barnard Harris. And we've also volunteered for many years at the school and helped with stabilizing the climate of the school and even within the community. I've worked so much in the Oliver community and in Johnson Square that I've been recognized as a guardian in the community, to the extent that the mayor has several of our banners on the front of City Hall. And some of the students who attended Dr. Barnard Harris and other leaders are featured in the news for helping to clean up the Oliver community and around the school. Now, with closing the school and sending our children to other areas, I feel you are potentially re-traumatizing our children and parents by sending them to unfamiliar schools where they will have to get reacclimated to other students, teachers, and if they want to go to after-school programs, that's an additional safety issue because it gets dark early. And are you willing to risk a child's safety with fixable issues? Would you risk yours? We did a DOT study in the Oliver community, and there are more accidents on Hartford Avenue this year alone. I lost my one and only child in 2018, so I consider all the children in Oliver and anywhere my children, as we all should. So it is imperative that we do all we can to help our children, not take away from them. Aside from all that, at the November 29th meeting, it was mentioned that money was intentionally directed to Hartford Heights as a 21st century school. So are you saying you took money allotted to Dr. Barnard Harris and poured it into Hartford Heights? I thought that's what Kerwin Commission money was for. According to the report, Dr. Barnard Harris hasn't had work done on it since 2017. I'll also read from a 2021 budget report that you guys put out. In the fiscal year 20, Maryland passed Senate Bill 1030, the blueprint for Maryland's future. For fiscal year 21, this program will provide a total of almost $79 million, including $5 million for declining enrollment, $20.7 million for pre-K funding, and $9.7 million for students with disability. It also includes the concentration of poverty grants, recognizing the need for increased funding for schools where 80% or more of the students live in poverty. My question is, where is all this money? We don't want to sacrifice our children because we want to close the school where money has been allotted to keep it open. We should not close them and cram children into already overcrowded classrooms. Regarding programming, partners are in the community that are willing to come in to bring programming, not on the expense of the school. Dr. Barnard Harris had an after-school program that is now in Hartford Heights. From all appearances, it looks like you are taking the rich resources of Dr. Barnard Harris and putting them elsewhere to Dr. Barnard Harris' detriment. Community impact also is being affected. Oliver is in a trajectory of growth. Like Senator McCray said, we have a 5-year population growth with new development coming. Our neighborhood has a master plan approved by the city, which are strategically focused on reducing crime while increasing economic opportunity. Lastly, putting the school up as a surplus is a tremendous negative impact on the community. We are trying to build up our community. We currently have no market, no rec center, and losing the school will affect its revitalization. I strongly oppose closing Dr. Barnard Harris, and I close in saying Dr. Barnard Harris should not be closed, but allow the opportunity to excel as we once did. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. Next we have a video from Jonathan Sussman.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Sussman. and I am the guardian of a student in the 4th grade who attends Stewart Hill Academic Academy. And I'm submitting this testimony in opposition of the recommendation to close Stewart Hill. And I'm also submitting this with the declaration that Stewart Hill should not only be kept open, but should be provided the funds that it needs to fix and maintain the building, as well as provide a quality education ongoing to the students, to my student and the other students in the community. I walk with my student every day to school. We live several blocks away, and it's always a really meaningful start to the day for both of us. Walking together across several calm streets, seeing neighbors bringing their kids to school, or maybe some that are out for a morning walk. And of course, greeting Miss Charlotte, the crossing guard, as she protects us and the other kids and families right in front of the school. But so much of this would be taken away if Stewart Hill was to be closed, and if we and other families had to send our students much, much further to either Franklin Square or Frederick Elementary. In our household, we do have the luxury of owning one vehicle, but over 60% of households in Union Square, Montclair do not. And that includes many, many Stewart Hill families. Which for many would leave them with the only choice would be to walk across some very busy and dangerous streets and intersections, putting themselves in danger each and every time they're on their way to learning. I'm going to share on my screen. I have these are the traffic counts for the different streets in the neighborhood, in the area. And this is for 2019. This is the average daily traffic. And currently, we walk across only a few calm streets in order to get to Stewart Hill before we get to Miss Charlotte and the crossing guard. But if Stewart Hill was to be closed, then we would be zoned for Franklin Square and would have to cross streets where it's closer to a total of 20,000 average daily cars that go through there. And for students that live in Montclair, this is even worse for many who would be zoned for Frederick Elementary, crossing the busy streets of Wilkins, of Fulton, and Monroe. The traffic counts for that trip would be closer to 30 or even 40,000 for some students. Average annual or average daily cars that go past. And as you can see from the map, so these orange dots and these red dots, these are instances over the last 6 years where a pedestrian has been hit and been injured. These are the injuries where a pedestrian has been hit and injured by a car. And even at the intersection of Ramsing and Fulton, a pedestrian was killed several years back by a car. These are dangerous, very busy streets, and students should not be crossing them and worrying about getting hit by a car on their way to learning. I would just say that in terms of the ongoing maintenance issues that Stewart Hill has, the state and the city have brought about those issues through decades of disinvestment in city schools, including Stewart Hill. But ultimately, it's the children, the families, and the neighborhoods that suffer the effects. And we can't heal as a city from these decades of disinvestment by more disinvestment. And so, once again, I strongly oppose the recommendation to close Stewart Hill. And I believe it should be kept open and given the funding that the students deserve. Thank you.
Okay. All right, my vocal cords got a brief break, but now back to Cindy Homans, which is an email to an email. Okay. All right. Why should Stewart Hill Academic Academy remain open? It is a thriving example of a community school, the model that Baltimore City Public Schools desires for all its schools. The school has many community partnerships which contribute to the success of the students, including Viva House and Catholic Charities. Additionally, artists have come to the school to paint murals. Other partnerships include Roberta's House providing grief counseling to students, Swebo Church providing donations to families, Diamonds in the Rise providing one-on-one aids, Maryland Legal Aid providing free legal clinics, Backpack Survival Program providing monthly food bank deliveries to homeless families, Operation Warm providing winter coats, Union Square Association, which has contributed to the school by forming a Little League basketball team, collected books to distribute to students, donated 30 computers for the school library, renovated the school's auditorium, created a community room for parents to access services, complete with computers, made an outdoor reading space, tables and chairs for students to learn outside. The Christian Community Center, located a block from the school, providing an after-school program where the children can play and learn safely until 5 p.m. every day. Other individuals have donated 30 computers for the school library and begun a Head Start program. I don't think this list is exhaustive. There's a lot of community involvement at Stewart Hill. People have really invested in the lives of the children who attend the school, and there's a feeling that all of this cannot be created, or at least it would be difficult to recreate at another location. Additionally, my daughter says that the auditorium at Stewart Hill is lovely and large. It accommodates a large number comfortably for graduations, meetings, and performances. Beautification has taken place both inside the school and outside the school, and one of the schools to which the children will be relocated does not yet have air conditioning. Stewart Hill is air conditioned. The reasons given for closing Stewart Hill are as follows. Enrollment is low, 248 students. Because enrollment is low, funding is low. The building is in need of major repair. New windows and a new roof are needed, and the building floods sometimes. I think the benefits of keeping the school open outweigh the reasons given for closing it. One of the schools to which the children would be relocated is in a more dangerous neighborhood, though the city states that this particular school is a 21st century building. The city is also claiming that the new schools are in healthier environments. Most importantly, the emotional health of the children is in danger should the school close. Students currently have phenomenal caring connections with people in the community, and to displace them would be a definite disruption to their lives. Respectfully, Cindy Homans. Okay, next we have a video from Peter Van Buren. Give me one moment. Okay.
High enough attendance.
Come on.
Good evening. My name is Peter Van Buren. I live in Bolton Hill, and I've been a neighbor of the Utah Marshburn School for 33 years. I love my neighborhood and I love my community, and I'm deeply concerned about the decision to close the school. I think this is absolutely wrong, and I certainly hope that the school board will reconsider and change their opinion and keep this community together, and also start investing in our community, which has not been done for so long. In the 30 years that I've lived here, I've worked irregularly as a volunteer at the school and watched the neglect, serious neglect, non-investment for so long. The school is wonderful. The children are wonderful. They love being there. They love their teachers, and the teachers care too. They're doing a great job amongst odds that are ridiculous. I mean, the abandonment is blatant when you see when you go in the school. The lack of upkeep and maintenance on the building, the lack of materials and supplies in the school, the lack of books. It shows. And then you blame the community for not having a high enough attendance. The spirit here is really strong, as everybody says. You've heard it yourself in our meeting. And there's a large number of people here that want to see this succeed, of course. After abandoning them, and their resilience is strong, and they keep on struggling. We keep on struggling with the little that we are given. And then COVID hits, and the lack of computers, going through all of this, the school has persevered. And the kids are now trying to get back on normal.
Uh-oh. I want to try to refresh this.
Good evening. My name is Peter Van. Going through all of this, the school has persevered. And the kids are now trying to get back on normal, and you're going to shake them up again and send them to 3 different schools, split the whole community, long distances traveling, through perhaps by additional drug peddlers, rival gangs, street violence, and incredible traffic, particularly crossing North Avenue. I cannot believe how dangerous it is to cross that street, especially for young children at night. Come on. And I know that you all have conscience, and you're going to really feel horrible when that first child is hurt crossing that street because it's too dangerous. I urge you to reconsider. The timeline you've given us is ridiculous. Doing it over the holidays seems a blatant move to reject any involvement by the community to change the edict that you've put down upon us. That too seems incredibly wrong. So please reconsider what you're doing and do the right thing by investing in our city, not taking away our resources yet again. Thank you for your consideration. My name is Peter Van Buren. I live in Bolton Hill at 1310 Park Avenue. Thanks a lot. Good evening. My name is Peter Van Buren. I live in Bolton Hill.
Okay, next we have Monique Gray. I was actually reading the chat earlier, and I think she might have had to leave. Okay, she did have to leave. Let me see if I have an email from Ms. Gray. Okay. Okay. Okay, again, this is from Ms. Monique Gray. She says, my points for this letter are as follows. The purpose of education, the purpose of public schools, the need to educate our children. According to Dr. Wellington, According to Dr. Wellington Samkange in the journal article examining the role and purpose of education within the Marxist perspective, the role and purpose of education, according to the functionalist perspective, includes instilling norms, values, attitudes, and beliefs within society. Education should be able to help the individual acquire skills. These skills should be relevant to the society in which the individual is a member. With that idea of education fresh on our minds, considering any school placed in an area that the children are accustomed to would be able to help them have stability and be able to allow them to learn. What is the real purpose of a neighborhood school if you're recommending it leave the neighborhood? Public schools are available for the children that need them. According to the dadvocate.org, in an article entitled "The Role of Public Schools in the Advancement of the Communities," public schools can play a significant role in the general improvement of their respective communities and can operate as a major platform for enhancing child welfare in the community. Children in impoverished or urban areas need to learn and build life skills also. What does it say to our children that have been trying to learn during a global pandemic and might need to be back in the classroom, that because they came back and a few others have not, they should suffer? What about the parents that need teachers to do their job? What about the free breakfast and lunch programs that assist these parents in nurturing their children? The children need us to stand up for them and to teach them how to thrive, not just survive in their community and beyond. Which brings me to my last point, the need to educate our children. These children in this school and around the world are our future. They are future parents, leaders, and members of society. It is our job as adults to help them find out who they will be in the future by teaching them skills and allowing them to find their special gifts and talents. The children of Baltimore need to have more than education in the classroom. They need to know that some adults care for them and their well-being. They are the future, and if we don't build and care about their minds, who will? I recommend to deny the recommendation to close Dr. Bernard Harris Senior Elementary School and then put more effort in the students that do show up. Give them new books, new programs, and help them stay motivated to learn. Sincerely, Ms. Monique Gray. Okay, next we have an email from Jessica Lee. Good evening. My name is Jessica, and I'm a community member at Stewart Hill Academic Academy. I'm here to tell you how important Stewart Hill is to me and the community, and to ask you to keep our school open. The recommendation to close Stewart Hill is based on small school size, declining enrollment, and the condition of the school building. However, none of these are reasons why Stewart Hill needs to close, and there is no evidence that any of the supposed benefits of closing the school will outweigh the harm done to students, families, and the communities. Reasons to close the school are wrong. Declining enrollment is not unique to Stewart Hill. It happens across the city. Why should the families, parents, and community of Stewart Hill pay the price? Why close schools instead of making them more attractive for people to send their kids? The enrollment numbers used in the recommendation don't include pre-K this year, but do for other years. Enrollment only dropped in the pandemic and went back up this year. It is true the school buildings is in need of repair, is experienced years of neglect. Why is the answer to close Stewart Hill rather than work with the community and partners to address immediate needs? Stewart Hill is an essential part of the community and should stay open. It is a true community school. Families and students are supported by many services that are based not only at the school, but also in the surrounding community. If Stewart Hill is closed, the community will lose access to GED and ESL classes that were scheduled to start at the school from Baltimore City Community College, Head Start classes that were scheduled to move into Stewart Hill. Stewart Hill provides before and after care for families. Frederick and Franklin Square don't have those programs currently. This is especially needed because the two new schools are so far away. Over the course of the pandemic, students have experienced trauma. Many have lost family members, families have been stressed and burdened, and they have had to deal with virtual learning. Bringing them back to school in person, only to close the school at the end of the year and send them to a new school will cause even more trauma. The community and partners have come together to invest tens of thousands of dollars in the school. Almost $60,000 from Salibo Community Church for physical improvements, including the auditorium and the teacher's lounge. $20,000 from the Baltimore Community Foundation through the Southwest Partnership for Community Space. Thousands of dollars in money, time, and supplies from local businesses to improve the library and repaint the school building. Volunteer time and donations to spruce up the front of the school this school year to welcome families back. Closing Stewart Hill will result in more disinvestment in our community. A vacant building on Union Square Park will greatly hurt ongoing community-led development initiatives, including the redevelopment of West Baltimore Street, the growth of the Mount Clair community, and the planned affordable housing development on Fulton Ave. The decision to close Stewart Hill seems to be purely reactionary with no consideration for the work that neighbors are doing to improve the community. I'm asking, splitting the school zone at Gilmore makes no sense in the community that is actually here. It cuts the neighborhoods of Mount Clair and Union Square in two and creates an artificial divide between the east and west sides of each neighborhood. I'm asking the school board to save Stewart Hill by rejecting the recommendation that the school close at the end of this school year. Okay, we have live testimony from Zivelle Z. Nottingham. Are you available?
I am available. Good evening. How are you? Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, everyone who is still assembled here at this hour. My name is Zivelle or Z Nottingham Lemon. I'm the Executive Director of Cherry Hill Strong. And I appreciate the opportunity to just briefly present to you this evening concerning the Cherry Hill community's opposition to the proposed closure of New Era Academy. Following the November 11th community meeting that City Schools held to discuss the proposal and the community's passionate response in opposition, we worked along with the Cherry Hill Community Coalition to convene a working group of parents, community leaders, and other stakeholders to really clearly articulate the issue and propose solutions. I just want to quickly highlight some of the conclusions from those convenings for you this evening. The current proposal, as of the letter that we received today, would have New Era Academy close in 2023 and its career programs move to Digital Harbor and Ben Franklin High Schools. It's said to be because the building will require renovations in excess of $12 million and that the current low enrollment fails to justify this investment in the renovation. But we know that the decline in enrollment has had many drivers over the years, right? Plagued by disinvestment, high teacher and administrative turnover, and adding to that, the inconsistent communication that includes repeated threats to close over the years and inadequate family and community engagement. All of this is added to a significant sense of instability. And from that, you get the consequent decline in enrollment that we've seen. The Cherry Hill community is requesting the partnership of Baltimore City Public Schools to come together to critically evaluate the best plan to actually connect the cradle to college and careers education pipeline in Cherry Hill, which is essential to the community's transformation plan and its vision to become a purpose-built community. The current proposed plan furthers disinvestment in a historically redlined community when instead we need to be considering options for how to reinvest in this pioneering, historically Black community. So again, we're asking for your partnership towards solutions that actually work for students of New Era and the Cherry Hill community to design and operationalize a high school that empowers students and the community. The community has been very clear, as parents, students, and community leaders have all said, that closing New Era Academy and moving the students and its signature P-Tech, Trans-Tech, and JROTC programs to Ben Franklin and Digital Harbor High Schools is not an option that the community is willing to accept. We're asking for a commitment to other viable and mutually acceptable options within the Cherry Hill community. So we call on the district to join the Cherry Hill community in the following 4 commitments to align with the community-led transformation of Cherry Hill. 1, to build community trust through meaningful discussion of the land use. We know that the revitalization of the Seaman Avenue property where the school sits is critical to the community revitalization in Cherry Hill. And we're calling on city schools to build trust with the community through engagement and transparency, answering the community's longstanding questions about the plans and possibilities for the land, prioritizing the building of a high school before allowing any additional development on the property, ensuring that before any final decisions are made about the use of BCPSS land in Cherry Hill, that Cherry Hill community leaders are brought to the table to truly inform the decision-making process. And then second, that you commit to helping us keep New Era students in the high school program in Cherry Hill. A complete cradle to college and career pipeline in the Cherry Hill community, which is an essential part, again, of the community's quest to become a purpose-built community, has to include a high school program. And despite its current challenges, the high school program remains a critical asset to the fabric of the Cherry Hill community. Families have called for students to remain within the community. City Schools has considered several creative solutions to fit our students in at other high schools, such as building portables and moving programs. And we're calling on that same sense of creativity to consider creative programmatic and facility solutions to bridge the current high school program at New Era Academy to a new high school in the Cherry Hill community. One possible solution could even include relocating the portables that are near Carter G. Woodson that were built during the pandemic to near the Patapsco building behind the historic Cherry Hill Elementary Middle School to serve the high school students' needs while working towards the construction of a state-of-the-art high school. Third, we're asking for a commitment in writing to keep these key career programs in Cherry Hill. The current proposal that's set forth disinvests in Cherry Hill, a historically Black community in Baltimore, by removing career pathways that offer economic stability for generations of families. Instead of expanding options and improving outcomes within the current program.
Sorry, Ms. Nottingham, it's Christian again. Sorry, your time is up. If you can wrap up your last thought.
Absolutely. The current program will relocate those resources and opportunities to schools that are located in historically white communities in South Baltimore. So again, lastly, we're just looking for partnership to engage as thought partners in designing and operationalizing a high school to best serve our students in Cherry Hill and across Baltimore. I appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you very much. Next, we have an email from Tiffany Wang, which I will now read. My name is Tiffany Wang, and I'm writing that the Stuart Hill Academic Academy remain open. I'm a Pigtown resident, a final year medical student at the University of Maryland School of Medicine, and a member of Sowebo Community Church here in Southwest Baltimore. I urge the board to reconsider closing SHAA because of the negative impacts on the community. SHAA is an essential part of the neighborhood. SHAA has deep relationships with numerous community organizations, including Clay Potts, Viva House, the Community Church, and my own church, Sowebo Christian Church. SHAA's deep relationships both provide support for SHAA students and families, as well as uplift the surrounding neighborhood. For example, Stuart Hill has graciously opened their doors to be the meeting place for my church for about 6 years. The SHAA auditorium is what I think of when I think of Sunday morning worship. The SHAA front doors when I think of my pastor's hugs. The playground outside when I think of my church's kids' laughter. SHAA and my church have a mutual bond of support, which is the kind of inspiration I reflect on when I consider where I want to practice as a physician in the next couple of years and the following decades. SHAA is an example of what it means to have a tight-knit community in the city of Baltimore, and for it to close would be taking away an integral part of the city. Please do not disinvest from this neighborhood. As a Baltimore resident, church member, and future physician, SHAA is essential to me. Tiffany Wang. Okay, next we have Rodell August, PhD. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed the email. That is Jane. Next we have Jane Bucheri, and that is also an email. I'm opposed to the closing of Stuart Hill Elementary for the following reasons. Number one, absenteeism is one of the major issues we hear from the community school coordinators in the Southwest Partnership neighborhoods. To think that parents are going to send their preschool and lower grade students to Frederick Elementary Middle School, especially in inclement weather, where the students had to walk close to a mile and cross very busy and dangerous streets is ludicrous. Number two, given that Frederick Elementary Middle is a charter school, are the children zoned to go there even guaranteed a space? Number three, newly added programs such as English as a second language and Head Start will only attract more families and students to Stewart Hill. The school system is not giving these programs a chance to mature and see the impact they will have on enrollment. The area is currently attracting more and more Spanish-speaking families. What are the plans to address this? Close to $100,000 has been put into the building by a church, Catholic charities, and private citizens, Sweet Equity, or Sweet, I believe it's either Sweet or Sweat Equity, I'm assuming that's Sweet, to make positive changes to the physical appearance of the building, which shows there's community support. 5, by closing the school, you are putting at risk the education of these children and not enhancing it. And that was Jane Bucheri. Okay, now we have Rodell August, PhD. Let's listen to the board executives to the board. Greetings. The practice of closing public schools have impacted mostly the African American Latino families whose children are thrown to a sea of stress and anxiety of having to face the trauma of being separated from their peers and teachers and leaving a positive school culture they have learned to love and grown attached to. This negative impact affects the children's learning as adjusting to a new school culture and environment is a very long process. By the time they have adjusted, learning may have regressed or lost, as some may put it. Questions on the financial concerns being the main reason for closing schools, EMES in particular, come into mind. I unite my voice with my colleagues in asking these questions. Where's the money that was supposed to be allocated for EMES to receive a 21st century school building? What checks does the school district have in place to annually review facilities and follow up with timely maintenance and renovations? How did the school district allow our buildings to deteriorate to this extent? Why should schools like EMES suffer the consequences of years of neglect in the maintenance and renovation of the school buildings and the unfulfilled promise of a 21st century building? In spite of this neglect and unfulfilled promise, EMES has developed a happy collaborative school culture through the years. Why should a great school environment just be taken away without even exploring possibilities to keep it open? EMES should not be closed. It is a model of what a great school environment and culture should be. Respectfully, Dr. August. Okay, next we have a video. Give me one moment.
Good evening, Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners. First of all, thank you so much for the work that you're volunteering to do. I know the roles that all of you hold are not easy at all, especially in the COVID-19 pandemic. So I really appreciate what you do, and I appreciate you being here tonight and taking the time to really listen to our concerns. My name is Fariha Wahid. I'm a proud special education teacher and instructional leadership team member at Utah Marshburn Elementary School. Today I'm testifying to express my deep concerns about the recommendation to close Utah Marshburn Elementary at the end of this school year. This is now my 6th year working at Utah, and really every single year I have seen people give it their all to try to improve student outcomes. Every single year, myself and many other staff have opportunities to transfer to other schools, but we choose to stay at Utah because we really believe in our students, our staff, our leadership, our families, and our whole community. Our school might not look like much from the outside due to long systemic neglect, but as soon as any guest walks into our school building, they immediately comment on our school's positive culture and climate. We have worked really hard. I have personally seen the culture and climate changes over the last 6 years. We worked really hard as a staff and as a community to make sure we're building an environment where every single student, staff, and community member feels loved, safe, and has the needed resources and opportunities to learn and grow. So you can imagine, it came as a profound shock to me and my entire school community when we found out that our school building was recommended to be closed. We've already experienced grave instability and enormous loss during the COVID-19 pandemic. Teachers in this building and our students and our families, they've lost their moms, they've lost their dads, their aunts, uncles, grandparents. People have even lost their kids in the COVID-19 pandemic. And really what's holding our faculty together, what's holding our community together is each other and the power of us being here to support each other. And it's really such a shame that as we're adjusting to coming back in person, we certainly are, again, thrown into uncertainty because we don't know what next school year will hold. We don't know if our community will be allowed to stay together or if we'll be ripped apart and sent in 3 different directions just for the convenience of the budget and the school board. We have really spent a lot of time working to build a strong and rich and rigorous academic learning environment for our students, and I hope that we can continue carrying that on. Over the last couple of weeks, I've heard so much feedback and so many questions from our community and our families, and I've summarized some of those and I've emailed them to the board and to portfolio recommendations. But the bottom line is we're very upset and we are very against this recommendation to close our school. We think it comes at a very premature time and a very poor time. We've been virtual the last 2 school years, as you know, and in a global pandemic. So there really have not been opportunities for robust and coordinated enrollment efforts between the school district and Utah-Marshburn and our community. There are so many students living in our Upton Druid Heights community that choose to go to private schools instead of Utah-Marshburn Elementary. And we really have to figure out why is that happening and what can we do to incentivize enrollment in city schools and at Utah-Marshburn Elementary. All of this should have been happening before the announcement of this recommendation to close. But currently the district website advertises our recommendation to close, leaving our community to wonder how are new families and students even supposed to be attracted to our school to boost enrollment when it's advertising a recommendation to close. I just want to be clear that the enrollment numbers that you're seeing declining, they're impacted by numerous factors outside the control of our school. We have a lot of renovation in housing communities like Pedestal Gardens, so people have gotten vouchers to go to different places while those buildings are being renovated. We're not sure what's going to happen once those buildings are renovated, like where are those students supposed to go? It doesn't make sense that we have a school right across the street from those apartment buildings, but it's being slated to close. We're also not sure where the money is that was supposed to be allocated to our school building because we were supposed to be getting a brand new school building in year 3 of the 21st Century School Buildings Plan. So please keep our building open. Thank you so much.
Okay, we have another video next. Give me one moment. And everyone, please mute if you are not muted. Oh, okay. All right.
Hello, my name.
I don't know.
Hello, my name is Derek McCorby, and I will be telling you why you should vote to keep Stewart Hill Academic Academy open. Community investment, unique programming, and a raised profile for Baltimore City Public Schools. Numerous organizations have partnered up and provided both their time and their financial resources in order to improve the quality of education and the asset value of the school itself. Southwest Partnership, Solihull Community Church, J.R. Lee, Sydney Development, Juice Labs, and numerous others. They continue to, and not only have they done so in the past, they have a commitment to do so in the future, along with the neighbors who live both in Solihull and surrounding areas and have chosen to go to Stuart Hill. This school also has unique programming from ESOL that's a newly developed and a unique program in and of itself. So the daycare, the ESOL, and also the nursing clinic that is forthcoming that I mentioned earlier. These programs aren't offered in the surrounding schools, and many parents have chosen to go to send their kids to Stuart Hill for these specific reasons. So in addition to the time, the resources, the financial resources, and the unique programming, this school's attendance is only going to rise further from the partnership that has been committed thus far. And with these unique programs, Baltimore City Public Schools profile will be raised. 21st century schools aren't the only viable schools in Baltimore. Local schools such as Stuart Hill provide unique opportunities for those who attend and for the parents who send their children to the school. A vote for Stuart Hill Academic Academy is a vote for a neighborhood that has been historically neglected. It's a vote for unique programming, and it's an encouragement to partnering organizations to say your time and your resources matter, and we appreciate what you have done for your school. Thank you.
All right. Next, we have an email to be read from Tawanda Thomas. All right. I think it will be a big disservice to the residents of Union Square to close Stuart Hill Academic Academy. This will be the second year you have closed. This will be the second school you have closed in this area within 4 years. Samuel F.B. Morse was closed in 2018, and now you're recommending this school be closed. Where would these children attend school? Frederick Elementary School? That's too far for little ones to walk, and so is James McHenry. We are already having transportation issues with the school bus services. You are asking to add about 600 more students to this issue. This isn't just a school. This is a home away from home to these children. This is also a polling station for 2 districts. This school serves a need for the children in the community. I thought education was a priority. Sincerely, Ms. Thomas. Okay, next we have an email from Jeff Johnson. Good day, Baltimore City School District Board of Directors. Please accept this as personal testimony in opposition to closing Stuart Hill Academic Academy. I strongly oppose the closing of this valuable resource to the community for a number of reasons. Due to time and work and restraints, please allow me to speak on those below for purposes. Number 1, community and partnership engagement. I work for the Southwest Partnership, lead agency for Stuart Hill, as a community school program manager for our 3 community schools, Stuart Hill, Charles Carroll Barrister, and Vivian T. Thomas. In my role, I've witnessed firsthand and played a part in the collective support that each of the partners have provided for all our community schools. I've also had an extensive background in youth development, Boys and Girls Club, YMCAs, Rec and Park, as well as my own male mentoring program. And through these experiences, and in various communities, including New York, Maryland, and Texas, I've never witnessed such massive and unique support that our community schools receive, thus an ability to provide the support that many other schools do not have. This unique support structure is literally unlike any other I've been associated with. The 7 committees, neighborhood associations, and anchor institutions are the backbone to the support structure and are willing and believe in the value of saving Stewart Hill Academy. Number 2, program development. Since my appointment with Southwest Partnership, I've been heavily involved with assisting with adding programs at our community schools to include Stewart Hill especially. I work closely with the school principal and in management of our community school coordinator in researching and securing commitments to provide a diverse menu of out-of-school time programs for the students. As I'm sure you're aware, there has been a number of additional programs added to the school's portfolio just in the 2021 school year that continues to grow. From pre-K to mentoring programs, which were not offered previously, will have a tremendous positive impact on the academic, social, and emotional development of the students at Stewart Hill. In addition, the school has received commitment to offer GED/ESOL classes to the community to be provided by BCCC. This too was made possible through the investments made by Southwest Partnership to install the community space that will house computer stations, workforce development programs that will be open to the community members. We anticipate this too will be well attended by parents and community members, thus providing access to this program conveniently located in their neighborhood and within walking distance. Again, by closing the school, not only displaces students and disrupts the emotional and social development of the students, but also negatively impacts adults/parents and those looking to better situations through adult programs that will now be offered. School staff. By now, I know you've heard of the hard work and ongoing dedication that the Stewart Hill principal, Ms. Brown, and her staff have put into raising the bar and what are acceptable standards for their students. One could easily observe the genuine care and concern for the students that has been adopted by the school staff. I witnessed the leadership and determination passed down from the principal, and more importantly, proudly bought in to by the staff that have been witnessed by our organization and other parents. Needless to say, this opportunity given to the principal and her staff has already proven to be a game changer, but in order to experience the full benefits, needs time to fully blossom. F. Johnson, Community Schools Program Manager. Next, we have a video from Mark Bird.
I'm Elisa from Diamonds on the Rise. We are a community partner organization here at Stewart Hill Academic Academy. We do not agree with shutting this.
Sorry, Lindsay, real quick. So I know you're on. This is the video from Mr. Bird. Is this the right video?
Let me double check, Christian.
Okay, why don't we come back to this one, because this does not look like Mark Bird. So we'll come back to this one. Lindsay, if you can check with him real quick. Thank you. Next we have Emma McAdoo, which is also a email to be read. Okay. Good evening. My name is Emma McAdoo, and I'm a community member. I'm here to advocate for Stewart Hill Academic Academy to remain open and continue to serve the children and families in our neighborhood. Stewart Hill is an important staple of our community and provides much needed services to the families, to the children and families who live here. Importantly, it provides before and after care for students, which is essential for many families. The same cannot be said for Frederick or Franklin Square. Additionally, sending students to these two schools will require many of them to walk much longer and less safe distances to get to and from school. The students of Stewart Hill and their families have already suffered through the challenges of navigating the digital divide to engage in online learning during a global pandemic and have just now returned to the school where they're supported and invested in. To now divide the neighborhood in half and require them to transition to entirely new schools, which do not provide the same services, are much further away, and where their children must cross busy streets to attend, is the culmination of a long pattern of decisions demonstrating the disinvestment of North Ave in this community. On the other hand, the community itself has worked hard to make up for that gap by financing numerous improvement projects for the school over the years. It seems to me there's much room for collaboration between the district and the community, which could ameliorate the concerns that have led us to this point. In summary, I hope you will reject the recommendation to close Stewart Hill Academic Academy and ensure that this school not only remains but flourishes. Lindsay, I just got your email, so we're good with the previous video.
Yeah, it looks like he submitted that on behalf of one of the school partners.
Of all the school partners. Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure.
I'm Elisa from Diamonds on the Rise. We are a community partner organization here at Stewart Hill Academic Academy. We do not agree with shutting the school down. Post-pandemic, Stewart Hill has been providing needed resources to the students and families of the school. I do not believe that in these 5 to 6 months that Baltimore City has been able to actively see the whole picture with bringing life back into Stewart Hill. Yes, we are a small school. However, I do believe a small school is needed for the students of Baltimore City. We don't need to be in big classrooms. You will now begin to bus students who are typically walkers. So that means parents are going to have to get up extremely early to make sure that their child is ready for the bus. In addition, we are dealing with kids who have IEPs, social and emotional behaviors, and uprooting them from their norm and sending them to another school will definitely intensify current behaviors. So instead of shutting the school down, I definitely believe this is a school that can increase more resources. Again, post-pandemic, new teachers have been employed at Stewart Hill, social and emotional learners, social workers, increasing our community partnered organization as well. So we can definitely work to increase the numbers for the school. However, let's look at the 199 students and see how can we provide a better enrichment education environment for them versus splitting the school up to be bused to 2 different districts for the families. So to close, we do not agree with closing Stewart Hill. We do agree with let's put our feet on the ground and get the needed resources to upkeep, to keep the building open. Thank you.
All right. We have live testimony from Sarah Matthews. Sarah, are you available? All right.
Yes, I am. I'm here. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. You have 5 minutes.
Okay. Good evening, school board commissioners, and thank you very much for allowing me to speak here this evening, and I thank you for your hard work and your diligent work to make sure that our students are educated. I want to simply ask you, please consider not closing Utah Marshburn Elementary School. I taught there for many years. I raised a lot of money to to actually have a new playground constructed because my students were getting permanent scars from the playground material that was left out there and it was neglected. And I also cleaned the school um, in front of the school for about 25 years because in the area there were illegal activities going on, and there were some uh, I guess you would call them blocks for the student to sit on, but they were not able to do that. There were paraphernalias that was left, and my neighbors and I cleaned that school for 20 years. I recently donated 100 coats to the school. I donated 100 turkeys to the school. I have just done whatever I could to ensure that Utah Marshburn stayed open, that the kids were safe. Please don't do this to them. That the young people who attend that school, they come from an area where it is not safe. I asked my students one day, who knows about drug? Who knows about selling drugs? 98% of them raised their hands. And when they come to school at Utah Marshburn, they come to a community where they feel safe. I established a partnership. I am an older adult. I live in the senior building across the street from Utah Marshburn. I don't have kids who go to school, but I love that school. Uh, One of the reasons why I was attracted to that school is because Mrs. Marchburn was an older adult like me as well. She not only was a school crossing guard for many, many years. After she retired, she volunteered. After she passed away, her son volunteered at that school for, I know, about 25 years. I simply am asking you to please reconsider closing Utah Marshburn. Give us an opportunity. I promise you, I will go there and I will volunteer. I will come back as a teacher to volunteer to help um, educate our students. And my partnership with my building is that we teach the students to play chess. We model behavior for them. We're doing whatever we can as an older adult community to assist these schools. So just tell us what we need to do. Tell us how to help you to help our kids and to help Utah Marshburn remains open because it is a place of safety, security, and learning. They learn there. They thrive at Utah Marshburn. And I love that school. And I will do whatever I need to do again to assist you in whatever endeavor that you think will work best, not only for because education happens at every level. And that is why it's important for older adults like me. We don't want to be called seniors anymore because we have resources, we have education so that we can share that and share our life experience with those students. And they still come and ask me on Halloween. Are you still giving out candy, Miss Matthews? Because when you were at Utah Marshburn, you didn't give out candy, and they would just ring my doorbell and run away because they knew I had to come from the third floor to the first floor to give them candy. And this is just my personal relationship with Utah Marshburn and its student. So again, I'm going to ask you, I don't want to belabor the point because it's late, but I'm going to ask you to find it in your heart to try and find a way to work with the community. And lastly, I want you to know that my niece walked away and left her 4 sons. And if it had not been for that rec center, they would not be the successful young men that they are today. One is a fireman, one is a chef.
I'm so sorry to cut you off, but I need, it is late as you said, so if you could wrap up your thoughts, we can move on to our next commenter.
Yes, absolutely. My thought is do for the children that you all were allowed to do for my nephews to make them healthy and happy. And thank you so much and good night. And may God bless you all.
Thank you so much for your passion testimony.
Sure.
Next, we have an email to be read from Joy Al. Give me one moment to pull it up. Okay. To whom it may concern, my name is Joy Al. I live in Ellicott City, Howard County. My phone number is 443-760-7056.
No.
Okay. I'm part of the Sowebo Christian Community Church, a church that has met at SHAA for the past couple of years. Speaking on the recommendations to close Stewart Hill. Stewart Hill has been a home for Sowebo Community Church since I joined the church community 3 years ago. As someone who grew up in Howard County, the Sowebo Stewart Hill community was among the first to welcome me to Baltimore. Despite living out of the Baltimore area, many of my friends and I continue attending church with our Stewart Hill Community Church. I found the community's depth and genuine desire to walk with each other and carry lives together are incomparable to any city I've lived in before. As an intern of the Food Project, a nonprofit organization near SHAA, many of the young people I work with have been through fragmented education due to their schools closing. Attending school in midst of financial troubles, physical health issues, or family challenges is already difficult. Suddenly removing a child from a familiar environment and harshly forcing them into a new one is devastating. Consequently, many of the young people from the Sowebo community I work with have dropped out of school or are largely struggling to complete it. Many schools have given up on them and called them impossible. However, instead of giving up, my nonprofit chooses to provide resources such as counseling, employment, academic help, and mentorship to these impossible kids of the Sowebo community. Many of these kids have now obtained full-time jobs or started to create their own entrepreneurship opportunities. Closing schools is not a new occurrence. The impact of closing schools I've seen is far from productive or positive for students. I urge the board to consider the potential SHAA has if we nurture and care for it. Okay, next we have a video from Nabia Aziz.
Good evening, school board members, parents, students, and community members.
My name is Nabia Aziz, and I am here today to express my opposition of the closure of School 11, Utah Marshburn Elementary School. I currently work at No Boundaries Coalition as the operations manager, and I serve on several boards and advisory boards of organizations that serve the community, including Communities United, Memorial Apartments Corporation, Memorial Episcopal Church's Guy T. Holiday Reparations Fund, and Step Up Maryland. I generally consider myself a servant of the 21217 community and the residents and children who live in that community, including the students who attend Utah Marshburn Elementary. I am a former resident of the 1400 block of Utah Place. During my time there, I witnessed, parents and students attending the school and, walking up and down the streets, and it brought joy to me. During my time at Communities United, I regularly would walk the children to school who attended Utah Marshburn Elementary School. I have volunteered at the school, including being a presenter for the school's career day, and I think that the closure of this school would really be a devastation to the school and the school community. Utah Marshburn has been the site of gifted and advanced learning classes. It offers intensive restorative practice opportunities. It's a community school, and it has a Judy Center. All of these things are huge assets to the community and assets to the children who attend that school. In addition, with it being a community school, there has always been lots of activities for engagements for the parents. The thing that's so important about community schools is they don't only focus on the students, but they focus on the people who live in the community, and they offer opportunities for the parents. One of the concerns regarding the closure of the school is attendance, and I understand that attendance has declined slightly, but I would like to remind us of the development in the area. Marshall Gardens was recently built, and it has 87 new units, and Pedestal Gardens is set to be developed very, very soon. Pedestal Gardens will be the new home to 279 units. Many of those apartments will be for parents who have small children who would attend Utah Marshburn Elementary School. So while the attendance may be low at this time, I think that it is reasonable for us to expect the attendance to come back on the incline as development takes place in our neighborhood. Perhaps instead of redistricting our students, we can widen the zone for Utah Marshburn and look at some other opportunities to retain students in the zone. And finally, I know that there are other concerns with the building beyond attendance, but I do urge the school board to consider investment into the school. In addition to the school location, it's also the site of Crispus Attucks Recreation Center, which was a community initiative. Community residents came together to push for that recreation center, and so the closure would likely mean that in addition to losing a school, we would also be losing a recreation center in the neighborhood. And both of these things just do not seem like good options for our neighborhood. So again, my name is Nabia Aziz. I am a Baltimore City resident and voter, and I urge you to reconsider your decision to potentially close Utah Marshburn Elementary School. I think that the school is a huge asset to the community, and I oppose the proposal for closure. Thank you very much, and have a great evening.
All right. Next, we have a video from Cecilia Gonzalez.
My name is Cecilia Gonzalez, and I am a neighbor and a member of Sowevo Community Church that used to meet at Stewart Hill Academic Academy. The recommendation of closure of the school given by the school board came as a shock to our community. And I believe that community engagement for this type of decision, especially for a neighborhood school, is key before a decision like this is made. The fact that there is no process for this engagement before and only after is unacceptable. But now that the recommendation for closure has been made, I would like to express my disagreement with this decision. Parents and students at the school are not in favor of this change. Relocation to another school would mean the breakage of their relationships with their peers, families, teachers, and their support system. This could also mean loss of access to programs available at Stewart Hill, such as the kindergarten, the ESOL program, and also the after-school program. This would also mean that the students who live in our community would have to walk long distances, close to a mile, and will not be provided transport.
Uh-oh.
Transportation. To recommend a school closure during the time of a pandemic is also not good. In fact, there should be a moratorium on school closures at this time, because we don't really know how long this pandemic is going to go for. It is not a good time to overcrowd classrooms with the potential of infection and having to quarantine students and lose classes because of this. You talk about enrollment numbers being low, but have you considered how the pandemic has affected enrollment at this time? And what about of the digital divide that has made enrollment and attendance harder for communities of color? Some people call this digital redlining. It is not right to continue disinvesting in our community. You talk of financial considerations, but what about of the COVID relief funds for schools and education that are coming? It is not a good time to disinvest, but to invest in our community and keep our schools open. Keep Stewart Hill open. Our community understands this, and individuals and organizations here have invested their money, their labor, their resources to support the school. So Sowevo Community Church, which I attend, has invested a lot of money, I believe around $60,000. And we have also benefited from the school, as it is the place where we used to meet before the pandemic, and we have continued to meet in the grounds of the school outdoors. It is the place where a friend of mine goes to school and he thrives there. He and his family do not want the school to close. Many students, parents, and community members do not want it to close. We want it to remain open. We want more investment and not less investment. We want those programs like the ESOL program to continue serving the growing Hispanic and immigrant families in our area. We also want the school to continue being a safe place for children and people in our community. So I ask you to listen to the community and our strong opposition to this closure and keep Stewart Hill Academic Academy open. Thank you.
All right, that was our final comment for the evening. And I believe I will now. Oh, Commissioner Valdema, you had a question?
Comment when you finish.
Oh, I mean, yeah, if you had a comment, I was going to turn over to Ms. Alvarez because I believe she had some information. But if the commissioner, I don't know if the commissioners had any.
No, I just want to make a comment, and I want to. I mean, it's a late hour. I do understand. I would be remiss if I didn't thank the many people who came out tonight and shared their concerns. And I just want them to know, as Commissioner Dr. Michelle Harris-Pandima here speaking, that I was happy to spend the time and the hours to listen and hear everyone's thoughts and concern. And I just want you to know that I'm here. We are here, and I'm glad that I hung in there and listen. And thank you very much, because I can see the great concern that people have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Bondima. So, well, yeah, unless there's any other comments, I believe we can just turn over to Ms. Alvarez.
Thank you, everyone. This was important, and I appreciate everybody's feedback tonight. I just want to kind of just let you know where we are in terms of the process. And time, I just a couple quick reminders. So the second opportunity for members of the public to provide oral testimony is coming up on Wednesday, December 15th. Please remember to sign up for that and all the ways that we have shared. You can also send written testimony to the board. You just need to make sure that it is sent by January 7th, by 5 p.m. on January 7th. You can email it or you can send it through regular mail. And then the board will vote in public on January 11th. Those are just some key dates that I just wanted to make sure to remind everybody of. I thank everybody and have a good night.
Ms. Alvarez, if I could just add you had the email addresses? I don't think that was said.
I have yep.
I mean, I can tell them it's just
I have one question.
There we go.
To send your written feedback to the board, you send it to this email address right here, portfolio recommendations at BCPS. It's that special email box that goes directly to the board staff so that it's separate from regular mail. And you can send it through regular mail, 200 East North Avenue, room 406. On your envelope, please write annual review recommendations or the specific recommendation that you're writing about. So again, it's separated from regular mail. Written feedback must be submitted by January 7th in order for the board to be able to have time to consider your feedback. If it's written. If you have questions, technical questions, actual questions for staff, you can send up the annual portfolio review questions. We will answer that. So that's the other thing. That's key. And remember, you can, and on the 15th, you can provide testimony in all the ways that we saw today. Written testimony to be read by the board exec, testifying live, or sending video. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Alvarez. I'll now turn it back to our chair to close us out.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Angela. And I just want to thank the public. I want to thank you all for your comments and your feedback. This is a tremendously difficult decision. And so hearing your voices is extremely important for us. And we're very grateful. I don't know is the feedback coming from me, Christian? No? Okay. All right, but I truly appreciate everybody, and I want to give a special thank you to my board colleagues, those of you who've hung in there with us till 11:06 p.m. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. I am not going to belabor this. I want to say good night to everybody.
Can I ask one question?
We will see you all. I'm sorry. Who is that? Yes. I can't hear. I'm hearing a lot of static. Okay, I'm going to ask the person who wants to ask a question, if you could please email your question to our board office. We'll get your answers for you. It is well past the hour, and I want to let everybody go for the evening. So good night, everyone, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.